we'll both have a recording just in case something goes wrong. But I doubt it'll go wrong on my end. But you never know. So that's why it's
Yeah,
good that we're both recording this time.
I have right. I have both on my end now.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Okay, so Zig Zag Zilla in the house, ladies and gentlemen. And as far as your viewers are concerned, then it's the Wake and Brave. Do you think many of your viewers are aware of my channel? I mean, they're probably used to
No, but I'm gonna post this and they will be, which will be a good thing. So
it.
hold on. You on the go. I don't know. Wait, something popped up over here. On the go is audio. Welcome to on the go. Remember you. Hold on, Aaron. Hold on.
Uh-huh.
Can you still see me or no?
No, I can just see the picture of you in the circle.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, either way, I'm gonna be posting it. So I doubt. See, the thing is, I've
I
let
can't
a
see
few
you.
people. Okay. Oh, hold on. Can you hear me and see me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've let a few people aware of your channel. They've went and watched you. They didn't know you were on back on YouTube. So especially now when I post, because I don't stay in touch with that many people that watch my videos. Probably like two or three
Yeah.
personally. You get what
Yeah.
I'm saying? The rest of them is just through videos. And when this one gets posted, it'll be good because they'll know that you're back on the platform, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice to be opining my opinions again. Do you ever get those days when you are like electric and you've just got so much to say and you just keep recording and recording and recording? Well, I think I did 5 videos today. And I'm entirely inspired, and some of the rants were somewhat demeaning to the NPCs, but I think it's a perfectly normal thing that we get tired of these dead drones, and then when they say stupid shit, it's just why me? Why did I have to come to this
Yeah.
planet? You know, there's obviously something that we've got to learn here.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
patience. Maybe that's the thing. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. But yeah, so I mean, I come from things from a very philosophical way, and in the
Well, before we start, Aaron, I wanna let everybody know we had a very good chat a couple of days ago. You get what I'm saying? It's not obviously public because we had technical issues, but one of the things that I do want to point out, because there's something that you did mention in your previous video, was that there was people who was trying to get you to talk with somebody and whatnot. There's a reason why I want to mention this, just to
yeah,
make sure everybody is very clear on it. See, I'm not here on your platform because I agree with you or because you agree with me. I think the first chat, it's a shame it wasn't public, but one of the things we did that I appreciate was we actually got the chance to challenge each other, and we actually spoke like men. We didn't speak where we were afraid to ruffle each other's feathers, and that's something that I mention in my videos a lot. I don't look for people to agree with me. Sometimes I look for the people to disagree with me to kind of challenge where my stance is. Not that I believe in like right and wrong or truth and false. It's basically what it is and where you're at that moment. Like somebody may be listening to something at one point in their life and they say, "Oh, this is absolutely truth." But how do you know it's true when later on you listen to it and you say, "Oh, that's no longer truth. It's just what you were resonating with at the moment you heard it at that time." You get
yes,
what I'm saying? So that's one of the things that I wanted to point out to the audience, to make sure that they know that we're not here as like, oh, we're talking only because we agree with each other. The key to this is to make sure that we open our minds to basically different ideas, to the levels that we're on, and there really are levels. You know what I'm saying? People don't know that because they're not aware that there's levels. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
But yeah, I mean, I've been through different phases and whatnot. I that first conversation is something that I really, really appreciated. And aside from you, I want everybody to know that. You know what I'm saying? That's
yeah,
something that we went hard at it, and it was 3 hours. It didn't even feel like it was 3 hours. So when you hear Zigzag and the Awakened Brave, don't expect that to be the case. You get what I'm saying? We're always going to come from a space of love, which is why we're never going to be, going at each other like we're really literally trying to kill each other. Like
Yeah,
when I mentioned in the first video with you, I asked you, why do you even want people to come on your channel to chat? And you gave me a really good answer, which I'll let you answer. I know that's probably not something that was, since that's out because the first video is not out. But I look at it where the mind is a tool that I want to keep sharp, and sometimes, I want to speak to other people, and if it's in a challenging way, I look at it like we're in there, basically either sparring, or we can actually build off of what we're speaking on that can actually broaden my perspective. Only because I look at you as a mirror or a version of me. I don't look at you as something separate to me. It's something that I can look at as an opportunity to look at you as a portal that you can maybe get me into that I'm not aware of. You get what I'm saying?
yeah,
Only because we're in
just
this limited perception where we're shards of everything,
I mean, for me, when the reason why I mentioned somebody was trying to get me to speak with somebody, well, this guy's an ardent atheist, and I'm like, well, what on earth is the point? What possible benefit would come out of that, in view of the fact he's so transfixed in his know-it-all opinions of there is no spirit and there's no God and this is just science and all this nonsense that any intelligent person can just refute in an instant. And so it's kind of like, well, I want to have nurturing conversations. I want, like when we first started speaking this time around, we used to speak years ago, but we didn't really know where each other was coming from. And that's why it's
no,
so interesting for both of us. What do you think about this? And what's your opinion on that? Because we respect each other's opinions, because we
right,
know that each of us have special circumstances as to why we derived at them. We've not picked this shit out the air. We've thought about it long and hard, and we've got very valid reasons at this moment in time why we consider certain things to have a certain veracity.
right,
And I mean, the reason why I enjoy speaking to you is because we speak about similar things, and we're in a similar sort of vibration where we can do this. If one of us is an atheist or an ardent Christian, then they're just so full of dogma, and really, there's just there's no sparkle to a conversation like that. It's
right.
just like you're both wasting each other's times, and one of the greatest things I've always had an issue with is whenever we get these debates, science versus religion, well, why can't you just have a debate on the spiritual, deep consciousness aspect of things? Why does it have to be from this camp and that camp? Why can't intelligent human beings just come and, chew over certain issues and facets of what it is to be a human being? Why do we always have to
Yeah,
belong to one camp? And it's so important to debunk the other one. It's just stupid. And I won't ever personally get involved in that. And so I just wanted to make that perfectly clear. When I said to this guy that was trying to line me up with this dead beat Dawkins sort of character, is that look, after you've listened to our conversation, you'll see why I'm never going to get engaged with a fruitless conversation like that. And so, that being said, we look at the big picture. We look at big questions. We're going to be looking at God. We're going to look at Jesus. We're going to look at love. We're going to look at the nature of reality, consciousness, and any number of
hmm
things in between. And so the 3 hours that we had, and we lost that, I think, well, that was cool. We lost it for a very
it
good
was.
reason, because
Yeah,
now we know what we want to discuss, and we've got a little bit of a background with what each other thinks about that, and so we can articulate it much better.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I'll let you lead the way. Yeah, you just start firing with whatever you want to start with, then, Ziggy.
Well, the main. All right. So yeah, I mean, every time. I mean, just basically analyzing our last conversation, uh, we spoke a lot about love and God, and uh, one of the things that always sticks out to me is when somebody, like, let's say in the spiritual space, always wants to speak about spirit and soul. We went in depth on that in our previous video. We both had similar perspectives, but not quite on the same line. Maybe I want to cover something like that before we move on, just so that we can get a thorough understanding of what that even means. because the reason I even mentioned this because I've had conversations with religious people, and they'll start to talk about spirit and soul and whatnot. And see, the thing is I position myself like a child. I'll want to dissect why they're even using certain words
Yeah.
without getting lost into the actual sentence of what they're using. I want to dissect why they even used the word soul and spirit. They talked about death. They talked about, the first thing they asked me was, do you know where you go when you die? And I was like, well, do you know where you go when you die? And I hate to ask a question with a question, but sometimes if I answer them, I feel like when I ask them the same question, it might influence their answer. And I have that strategy with people at times where I want to know why you're saying it before I even answer you, to make sure you're not influenced by what I'm saying.
And
You get what I'm
also
saying?
to
And a lot
know
of people do
what
that.
they are asking, they actually know what they're asking. They know what
Right,
the
right.
root is of these words that they're using and the concepts.
That's right. And a lot of people, even when they're doing presentations, they're doing talks, they're regurgitating, and they're regurgitating because they can't explain or really dismantle or dissect why they're saying what they're saying on a really deep level. They're just, yeah. And then when you really get them cornered, they want to, they refer to, well, in the Bible it's, I'm like, no, 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 put the
Yeah,
book down.
exactly. Yeah.
Tell me what you're gonna say. Don't tell me what the Bible. I know what the Bible says because I can get something out of the Bible and I can get it in a different way where you might get something out of that book too. I want to know what's coming out of you. You're the author. You're a book right now to
Yeah.
me. I want
What's
to know what I
your
can get out of you.
interpretation?
Right, right. So let's start with that. What is the soul? What is the spirit? And we get into what is God. And basically, I know we went into what is love, and we both had two views on what love is. But I think those are very important words to start with so that it can build a foundation on what we're going to talk about for the next few hours.
Yes.
If
I
you can.
mean, when we read Christian religious scripture, all the authors speak about the soul. And the reason why they're speaking about the soul is because at that point in time, when these books were being written, pre 1900, Freud hadn't coined the term ego. And so everything that I have learned about when these authors have been speaking about the soul, it seems to me that they are speaking about the ego. Now, when we Google soul and spirit, we can see that they are very often interchanged. And this is the confusion. And so we can read many, many people's writings and work, and we can see that they use soul here and spirit there, and they don't seem to be clear on what this is. But from what I've gathered through extensive reading of this stuff, is that they always have been referring to the ego, because everything they say about the soul fits the ego. Because they speak about us having a soul. Now, if we have something, we're not it. And so we have an ego and we're not it. What are we? We're spirit. That's what we are. We're spirit, we're pure consciousness, we're pure love. Because these three things, as far as I'm concerned, are interchangeable. And I did a video about this today. And I said, look,
Mhm,
people, scientists, they're spending trillions of dollars on Large Hadron Collider looking for the God particle. And I say, well, look, it seems more reasonable to me. Instead of spending all that money looking for a God particle in the fiction of this reality, why don't you just look for that which is looking? And then people might say, well, it's the brain. We know where the brain. No, no, no. What's the driver of the brain? Oh, we call that consciousness. Okay, what is consciousness? Ah, well, we don't exactly know. Well, why don't you spend trillions of dollars finding out what that is? Because what I'm suggesting is that if you find out what consciousness is, then you don't need to find no God particle because you will find God. Because in my
right.
estimation, consciousness is God. And from my experience, reading many, 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 many spiritual, religious stuff, everybody expounds that the cosmos is fundamentally love. And I always used to refute that for many, many years. But in recent times, through certain experiences, I have resolved that I do believe that to be true. And the only thing
Mhm,
that refutes love being the fundamental premise of the universe, is our ego. Our ego will have dissatisfaction with our lives and our lot. If we are firmly immersed in our ego, then we're going to question, and we're going to, have conflicting opinions about everything. But if you come behind the ego, back to that which you really are, which is pure consciousness, then you can't have an issue with everything or anything, because we have to know that this is all a projection.
So when we talk about ego, right? Like, let's say we have, you said the soul, you equate that to the ego. How do you, can you, all right, so can you equate that? Because we've got a lot of different ways to explain even our existence here. You see how, uh, just even language, we speak about legalese, and we speak about the straw man. We speak about, what we were under maritime admiralty law. Do you equate the ego, meaning like what we actually are here, with the straw man? And I mean, can you even equate those two things together? What does that mean? Like the straw man, the ego, are those two things the same, or is those two things separately, as far as to explaining it from one's in the spiritual and merging it to explain it in the spiritual realm? Because somebody would say your straw man is not even real, but we say the ego is also not real or whatnot. It's just a
Yeah.
construct of the animated character that we have. Can you equate those two things together?
I don't know whether I can equate them together, but I can certainly describe what they both are.
Mm-hmm.
So, ego is a term coined by Sigmund Freud, the great, renowned psychologist, psychoanalyst. And the ego is the essence of what modern people call the operating system, which
Mm-hmm.
is this thing that is driven by our everyday consciousness. Ego was split into three components. The first one was the id, which was German for it, and that related to the primal asset and facet of what it is to be a human being, are pure animal instincts. Then we
Mm-hmm.
had the ego, which was the everyday consciousness of how we live and manage our lives. And then there was the super ego, and that was the conscience. And so we had our animal instinct, which wanted to fight and fuck and feed. Then we have on the opposing end of that, we've got the conscience, which tells us that we can't just fight, fuck, and feed, because we've got this thing in the middle called an ego, which is the fulcrum of the balance. And so we have to have balance. And so if you want to fuck, then you've got to do it appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to feed, then you can't just be stealing another man's packed lunch. So the ego basically speaks about the human operating system. And it's become so deeply embedded in human psyche now that it's superseded the soul. Nobody speaks about the soul anymore. And if they do, I'm pretty sure most people don't know what they're speaking about. Because as far as I'm concerned, and I'd like, if anybody would consider that that's different, that I think it's the ego. Spirit is that which we are. Spirit is God consciousness. Spirit is us being a shard of God. And when in the Bible it was pronounced that we were made in God's image, then I don't think necessarily that was about God being an ego, even though the Old Testament sounds very much like it was, because it's all, you will do this, otherwise I'll do that. I'm a jealous God, I'm an envious God. It's like, my God, it just sounds like an ego to me. But
Mm-hmm.
fundamentally, there had to be something else beyond that, which was spirit, which was the pure essence of love and creation. And so, but then you see, this is where I can't have an adherence to believing that the Bible is the Word of God. Because if it is the
Mm-hmm.
Word of God, then he's no different to the human being, because he suffers all the same flaws of jealousy, hate, and frustration. For God's sake, the
Mm-hmm.
Old Testament is fraught with that.
Now, let me ask you this, because we said spirit is God consciousness. And then I want you to ask me the question, because I want to pretty much tell you where I'm at with it, and see if we're in the same page with it. But God consciousness, let's say you said spirit is God consciousness. The way I see spirit, um, I'm in my I'm observing my spirit the moment I'm observing my reality into existence with, we can go into the quantum way of looking at it where we say the observer theory, where we're collapsing our existence into matter, right? But the experience we're going to have is all determined on our mental and vibrational state. We could call them programs if we don't want to get too pseudo on things. So let's say, for example, we spoke about uh, the kids in Africa when we spoke about in the other video where they said that these kids were never exposed to like a phone. Let's say they were playing hockey with like sticks and rocks, right? But then the moment that they go to America and they start to play hockey with real skates, real stick, and a real puck, what would happen if they went back to Africa? Would they have that same experience after they've already experienced what was greener on the other side? Because the way I'm looking at it from perspectives over here, it's not to say one is right, one is wrong, or one is detrimental for one and one is not. Because I mean, I can see a rich person wanting to kill themselves because they're not fulfilled to some extent because they're in the realm of the illusion of what we call it. We get into depression and whatnot because that plays a bunch of different factors into somebody's experience and what matters to them. Because somebody says, well, that doesn't matter, and if it doesn't matter, it won't materialize in your reality. That's why certain words I try to dissect. But let's say, for example, I looked at this meme one time where they showed this kid playing in shit and he was having the time of his life. You get what I'm saying? And then the other kid that was rich was put in that environment, and we would say that that's a spoiled brat. Like, they don't really know what the joys of life are. But then if we change the perspective around and say, well, that kid that's playing in shit is only happy because he doesn't know the expansive universe that's on the other side. You get what I'm saying? It's kind of like we could say a rich person thinks that this is the all, but they don't know what the expansiveness is of, let's say the cosmos and whatnot, or what, what true abundance is from the other side. They can basically master the game. There'll be a lot of people who want to reach like nirvana spiritually, but they can't really master the physical to some extent. To basically, let's say you're playing a video game, you want to master that game and become the best at that game. um, if I'm playing a character in a video game, once I put the game down, if my life is chaos, I'm still gonna go back to that life, and I'm really not fulfilled. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like separating the two, and I want to go into like logic because everything has a logical explanation. Um, let's say, for example, I was able to communicate with Mario, like when I'm playing Super Mario Brothers. He can't do anything but go left and right and step on characters. He can't go around the character. But suppose that I can communicate with Mario. I'm God. And I can say, hey, Mario, you can go around this character. Even if we were to explain that to him, the fact that the program is set a certain way, he can't go around that character. He can only do what he's programmed to do. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, as our characters, when we talk about consciousness, the mind of God, or let's say Christ consciousness, I observe my space. I know what my limitations are as a human. I know, let's say if I became privy to the game, I'm under maritime amnesty law, the matrix, and I'm a straw man and whatnot. How can I use that to my advantage in my reality now? If I'm aware of my God consciousness, how can I use that practically in my life now, still living this experience to the fullest potential, right? Or even understanding what actually death is, which is something that's a mystery to us. I put a lot there on the table. We could try to dismantle that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, let me then address, which was part of the first question,
Yeah.
what is the straw man?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the straw man is a fiction on top of the fiction. Because what they have done, the powers that be, they have created a legal fiction out of human beings in modern times, and they've
Mm-hmm.
done this via registering us on the stock exchange at birth. That's why we have a birth certificate, which pertains to maritime law. We have been
Mm-hmm.
birthed as a chattel into the nation where we was as a good offloaded out of the birth canal. So off the ship that came into the port, we were birthed, and this stems from the old times whereby the governments used to tax goods coming in, and everything used to have a birth certificate for validity, so people could prove that they paid their duty on it. So we have been created in to chattels owned by each country, and we are floated on the stock exchange. And each nation borrows money against the potential of us for the amount of work we're going to produce in our lives via our human energy. So we are worth X amount of pounds or dollars. And so if a country wanted to borrow money, saying we've got 60 million people, averagely these people are worth X, Y, and Z, we want to borrow some money, and this is our proof that we can pay you back. Because we've got no gold, we've got no silver, we've got no oil, but we've got human energy. And this human energy is going to be creating goods. And so we can sell these goods once they've been created. So we want to borrow on the strength of that. So then we're given a name. And the name we are given in legalese, which is all higher case. It is not our birth name. Our birth name, for me, let's say lower case Aaron. But on the birth certificate, if the Americans are the same as the British, it's only the middle name, so the second name, the surname, which is in higher case. And so, because they're already indentured slaves, parents that come under the same name, Berry. So I become a Berry. I become
Mhm.
indentured by my parents signing me over. My parents signed me over as a chattel to the government and said, look, here we go. Here's a child for you. And then unwittingly, what they do, they give ownership of their child to the government, and that's why the government now can have the power to take your children away from you if they don't think that you're looking after their chattels, their goods appropriately. So they've got rules and laws to supersede you as a parent.
Mhm.
Can you imagine how's that happen? You gave over the ownership of the child when you sign the birth certificate. And so, therefore, the children become chattels of the nation. They're owned by the government. And so that's why they can take them away from the parents at any time.
Do
And
you
so,
believe in good and evil, Aaron? Do you believe
yes, I
in good
do.
and evil?
Yes.
Yep. Um, who created good? Who created evil then?
Well, I believe those are two sides of the same coin
Mhm.
because you cannot have one without the other. You cannot
Mhm.
just have good because if you just
Right.
have good, well, it wouldn't be good because there'd be nothing to
Right.
compare it against. So,
Mhm.
therefore, you need the opposite. And if anybody's
So
going to be
polarities, but not duality.
well, I mean, duality to a degree. I mean,
Mhm.
because when we look at the cosmos, there is a polarity to everything. But
Right.
if we look at the cosmos as a whole, it's one. So, it depends from where you look at it. And that's what I'm all speaking
Right.
about. What vantage point? If you're looking
Mhm.
at the cosmos from a God's eye view, then you can see that it's all one. What I,
Right.
have a personal preference into an adherence to is that the cosmos is in the mind of God because
Right.
the cosmos is conscious, and quantum physicists state this without a shadow of a doubt. And so
Right.
it's not just me woo woo.
Mhm. Why do I ask this? Because let's say the whole good and evil. Let's say if that evil was created in this reality. Let's say, the maritime amnesty law, the straw man. What is the purpose for them doing that to humanity? In essence, what is the purpose of all that?
The purpose of them doing what? Sorry.
The purpose of the whole system, the way it's designed, where we talked about the straw man, the maritime amnesty law, basically exploiting the human being. What do you think the purpose of that is? Why was that created, or who created it, and what was the purpose of it?
Well, I mean, now we come to an opportunity for a schism, because what we're
Mm-hmm.
doing now is we are entering into the ego realm, because we can
Mm-hmm.
only answer this question from an egoic realm, because we have to feel that something is being done to us, or we are doing something to somebody. So
Right.
we already have created a schism.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no schism. If we, like I say, take a photo from Voyager, which is passing or was passing in the 70s, maybe 80s or something, Jupiter, and it sends this photo back of a tiny little blue dot, you can see that there's no separatism. There's
Right.
one
Right.
little blue dot which is living in the middle of a mass expanse of nothingness. And
Right.
but you see, we have been given the dichotomous minds. Because that is a part of our operating system which we need to create an illusion. Because if we
Right.
never had the dichotomous system, then we would never be able to discern between one thing and another thing. We would be in the oneness, and if there's a oneness, then there can be nothing else because it's all
Right.
one. So what we have to do is we have to create yin and yang, a dichotomy. We have to create polarities, and so when we have things happening on planet Earth to human beings, which are effects of a dichotomous cosmos, then it's nothing to do with per se archons or Illuminati or Masons or shape shifting aliens and all this sort of thing. It's to do with the cosmos. The cosmos
Yeah.
is dichotomous, and this is
Hmm.
what's going to happen because to have a cosmos, then it can only give birth to the opposites because otherwise there'd be nothing. You can't just give birth to one golden egg and that's all there
Right.
is. If you're going
Hmm.
to have a golden egg, then you have at least have to have a shape of a different color and a
Hmm.
different size to
Right.
make a comparison. You see, and
Hmm.
so people with their egos, they get embroiled in that we're being persecuted and they're doing that to us. Well, invariably, I don't take that advantage because I can see what's happening in the world from a bigger picture and I can't
Hmm.
see it as being any other way. The way it seems to me that it just has to be the way. People can get romantic and idealistic and speak about utopias in relation to, well, if we all loved each other, then there wouldn't be no wars and there wouldn't be this and there wouldn't be that. If we all loved each other, there wouldn't be a great deal of stuff. And if we all loved each other, then we wouldn't have any reason for creating the vast majority of things that we do. I mean, look at all of the technology which is stemmed from war. Look at all the things that we create via our fear of being imposed upon by another
Hmm.
man or nation or something. Everything we do is driven by fear. We need fear. Because if we don't have fear, we're going to be completely complacent about everything and would never consider that some of us may get cancer or, another devastating disease and would never start looking preempting all this stuff. You see, so I just think that the whole world is exactly as the only way it can be. And when we look at things like the straw man, well, I mean, there are manifestations within the laws and realms and parameters of this thing. Within this human construct, there are natural laws, and we have to abide by them gravity and growing old and the lineage of time. And so we operate within the parameters of those. And then human consciousness, God consciousness, is inventing any number of other things. Well, when you have polarities, you have weak and you have strong. And so it's perfectly normal and elementary that the strong are going to take advantage of the weak. And so I don't think what's going on here is anything that could never not be going on.
So, in a nutshell, who created that whole entire existence of what we would put in the compartmentalization of evil?
Well, you see, in the beginning, supposedly in the Old Testament, in Genesis, God created heaven, the Garden of Eden,
Hmm.
and created Adam and Eve. And everything was perfect until they ate from the forbidden fruit. What did the forbidden fruit do? It gave rise to knowledge. Without eating that fruit, there was no knowledge in Adam and Eve. The only thing that had knowledge was God. God didn't want Adam and Eve to have knowledge. And so that is questionable from the very offset. However, the serpent offered what God had placed in the garden as an opportunity, as a choice. So he created Adam and Eve like primates, completely unaware of themselves. They weren't aware of their own genitalia and the difference between one another. They were completely ignorant. And so then there was this tree within the garden which would have given them this awareness. And I think awareness, is a very beautiful thing. And I think if we turn things around, if we invert things, then the evil one was God, the dictator, the
Mhm.
fascist, the manipulator, the one that wanted to keep knowledge from us, that wanted to keep the fruits of this world and universe from us and keep us in our ignorance. Well, we were given brains with the potential of um, deciphering between right and wrong. So God already created this stuff for us, and so it was just a natural progression. And so, I've got a lot of problems with the Old and New Testament because none of it makes rational sense. What is actually happening in the Old and New Testaments is that people are starting to work out human psychology, and they're writing for very simple people um, how to live without killing one another. And so Moses, having, been with God for 3 days on Mount Zion, he comes down and he's got the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt love God. Thou shalt love thy neighbor. All this elementary stuff. Without that very elementary stuff, if there's no imposition of a standardized rule, then everyone's killing. Everyone's exploiting one another, and there's complete and utter chaos. So it
Mhm.
just seems perfectly irrational. We don't need God. All we needed was a psychologist to be able to
Mhm.
look inside the machinations of the human being, to find our flaws, and to be able to put certain governance upon them.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say is God created that opposing side, that evil side of what we consider
Yes, because nothing is
Matrix.
evil. Nothing is evil. What evil is an
Well, we're
opportunity.
gonna, yeah, well, okay, good. I was gonna ask you that. I want to get to that first. Is what is evil?
Evil
Mhm.
is an opportunity to learn. I
Mhm.
mean, evil is a concept. There can't be anything evil here if God created the heavens and the earth and everything was perfect.
Right.
And
Right.
so, therefore, we must consider that everything else is perfect. And if He created a tree with the knowledge in there, and it was a potential that we was going to eat it, being Adam and Eve, then that also had to be a good. It could never have been a bad or an evil. Otherwise, why would He do it? Because that would make Him evil. So we have to encompass, encapsulate evil and good, because without one, there isn't the other. And it's simple. And so the
Right.
world, per se, human nature, it isn't good or it isn't bad. It's all perspective. And I'm very much a postmodernist in this realm. And postmodernists, they believe that there is no definitive truth. It's all speculative, it's all subjective, and it's all pertaining to times and cultures and ways of thinking, this, that, and the other. If we go back 1,000 years, every single village on the planet would have had marauding armies which went out, raped, pillaged, and plundered the next village. That's just what they did. And that was the law, and that was the rules, and that was perfectly accepted. But
Yeah.
then, as we start to get a little bit more evolved, it's kind of like, I don't want my kids to be raped and murdered and enslaved. Can we not, talk to our neighbours and say, for fuck's sake, you speak a different language, but we're the same fucking shit at the end of the
Mhm.
day. Can't we just live together? So I
Which
don't
side
see.
would you? Which side would you sit on? Do you think you see the world for how it is, or do you see the world for how you are?
Right then. How the world is again a subjective experience because the world isn't in any particular way en masse. Because if you're going to say the world is in a particular way, then somebody has to be judging that. And the only place that judgment can come from is a subjective conscious experience. Now we can
Right.
form governments which conjoin
So,
individual conscious perspectives, and then we
mhm,
can have monarchies and we can have armies and we can say that's wrong and this is right. Who said it's wrong and it's right? 1,000 years ago, it wasn't wrong or right. It just was. But now, because certain governments are stating this, because they can see, well, I mean, if you want a like nice, orderly, community, then we've got to say that you don't steal, you don't rob, you don't rape, and all this sort of stuff. And so, I mean, it's just so very, very elementary that the human being could never be any other way. Now, when we go back to look at the construct of the human being, we are born with a brain. Well, actually, we're born with like four brains. We're born with two hemispheres. We're born with the amygdala, no, the medulla, the thing at the back, and then the amygdala in there, and then we've got the hypothalamus, and all. So we've got lots of brains going on, and we've got neurons in our heart and neurons in our stomachs. We're one big brain. Everything's a brain, and probably each individual cell is a brain because each individual cell pertains to every single bit of the knowledge for the whole body. And so, with every single cell, it's got the knowledge of building the whole body. And so, when we look at that, I think, well, I mean, if this was designed by a creator, then what we are now is exactly what we were designed to be. And if it wasn't designed and it just came about, then it's exactly how the only way we could be from the materials that we're given in the universe. If we've
mhm,
evolved through billions of years, we are the only fucking thing that the universe could create. There is nothing else out there. It doesn't make any
yeah.
sense to think that we could be any other way. The only problem about how we are is how we feel about it subjectively. If I don't
Right.
like
So,
what
so,
someone
so in
says,
other words, you see the world for how you are. Am I right?
the only way we can see the world is from our individuated shard of consciousness. That's all we
Hmm.
can do. And so, what we do
Right.
invariably, we seek out other people who see the world like us because we don't like to be in the Tower of Babel. We don't like everybody speaking a different language, everybody having a different opinion, everybody, wanting to do things in opposition to us. We want unity. That's what we strive for as humans. That's what the whole world is striving for. That we're striving for unity, which derives out of our dichotomy, and so it's a fight against all odds at the end of the day because we're
But
not.
why? What I'm trying to get an understanding of what is the purpose of the system, the way it's designed, and how the human being uh, sees it as far as government, as far as like control over people. Let's say the Matrix, the straw man, the maritime admiralty law, the control of money and whatnot. Why was all that created? That's the main question, because you said God created it. We see the world for how we are, but what is the purpose for that being there to begin with? In simplest like terms, like if I was a
Well,
10-year-old, you know what I'm
when
saying?
we look at the advent of good and evil, out of the advent of good and evil comes progress.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there was no evil, then invariably there'd be no purpose for us to progress. Because we'd be like pigs in shit, we'd be effectively primates, and we wouldn't ever bother fashioning the tool or building the house or thinking about combustion engines and all the rest of it. We would be primates. But we're not primates because we have this God consciousness for some reason. Maybe we have been spliced by Anunnaki or Nephilim or whatever, but we have this dichotomous mind. We have these conscious minds, and we can think of a lot of stuff. And so, when we look at how we are as animals, we're no different to bees or ants or fish or monkeys or anything. We operate in almost exactly the same way. way. If you look at a colony of ants, then you see that the colony of ants has a leader, which is born with a silver spoon to fulfill that position genetically. Okay, and so then around the queen, you've got the servants, and then
Mhm.
outside of the servants and the queen, you've got the workers, and then you have protectors, which are born with huge pincers, and their job is to protect and make sure that the safety is upheld of the queen, who produces more men for the army, more workers. And so when you look at that, you go, my God, that's an exact representation of human beings. We
Mhm.
perform in the same way. We push up a hierarchical system. I mean, kings and queens, they all reckon they were divinely incarnated for that position. They've got their king or queenship from God, and then they've got their servants, and then they've got the pincers at the door, and then they've got the workers. I mean, it's exactly the same. So it seems to me that it's a universal, cosmic format, and all
Mhm.
things within this cosmos work from the same programs.
Right. Now, the reason I asked all that is because it's one of the questions that, when we start to come into this little wave of consciousness, people say they're waking up or they're awoken, woke, this whole movement. I mean, everybody technically is awake, but they're still sleeping. It's basically, when I say awareness, consciousness, a lot of people are aware of their humanity, right? But they're not aware of anything beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
So even Christ consciousness, like when I say Christ consciousness, this is what separates us from animals. Why did God give us dominion over the planet, over the animals and whatnot? And to explain this simply, I think we spoke about this in the last video. An animal, right? Let's say if I have a dog, I could fly him in private jets. I could take him to a mansion, give him all the riches of the world. He's not aware that he's a millionaire. You know what I'm saying? If I put him in a poverty state, he doesn't have awareness that he's in a poverty state. The only awareness he has is of you, and this is why we categorize animals as love and unconditional love, right? There's many definitions to love, in my opinion. Love, in my opinion, is a building frequency. I made you the example when I was in my garden. I had this realization just by even being in the mind of God, because I was interacting with God in my environment. You said before that consciousness, right? You're seeing the perspective, you're seeing God in your reality. That to me is my spirit. This is why they say keep the spirit of that person alive, is because that person is the environment, that person is the people, places, and things around it, around that individual. The individual to me is the soul. The experience that I'm having is my soul. We can call it ego, we call it many different things, right? But the ego is something that I'm using to my advantage, to say I'm using my mind. This is why you see a lot of spiritual gurus, they'll tell you don't think, don't think. There's a key to thinking. The thinking can get, it could be a weapon used against you, or it could be something that you can use to your advantage, right? The same way the mind, it could work to your advantage or it could work against you. What we're doing here, I'm keeping my mind sharp. The thinking man, for example, if I'm in a bad state, I can become aware, right, of my conditions and programs. I'm having a metaphysical experience. This is what we have over the animals. The animals cannot create the reality. We could. This is why I look at animals as not even, people say that animals are being animals to me are nothing but a reflection in a mirror of what I have inside of me, and they're presented in their reality. And I'm big on even people. People are just mirrors and reflections of me. I don't see people as they're mirrors. And look, Christ consciousness to me is unity consciousness. Love is basically having that realization that you treat your neighbor as you would yourself. You do unto others as you would want done unto you, because it's literally like what's happening with you, what happens outside. They're there because you created it in your environment. So, for example, when I talked about the matrix, the straw man, I created that. And I realized that because the moment I realized all the corruption of what I do in my day-to-day life, it started to show me that everything is designed by the way I designed my ego and my reality to begin with. You get what I'm saying? You can't abolish it. It's not going to go away. You're having an experience. The same way my body is designed for me to have an experience here. It's an instrument of my mind. It's constructed. The moment I start to point fingers at people, at the government, at all this, I'm basically in a victim mode. I'm in a disempowered mode. The mind of God realizes that it's already there because you designed it to have an experience. For example, there's a lot of people who demonize money, they'll demonize riches, luxury, right? Because they say that that's the false reality of the, let's say, the other side of the green pasture would be like nirvana, the cosmos, right? But you can use it to your advantage to have an experience here that's going to cater to your instrument of the mind, right? So I'm perfecting my reality in a way where, but it's not going to start, because the root of all evil is basically chasing that, instead of you doing something that's from the heart space and you're generating income, because it's an effect of love of what you're doing, because money's neutral, right? People can sell drugs, people can kill money and get money. You get what I'm saying? Or you could do money, but money is not being chased, it's just coming to you one way or another. The same way you're an idea, you're a symbol. You could be an idea to another person of a bad idea where you were not conducive to society, you were killing people, doing other things. All you are is like a cell that's disconnected from itself, right? Like when we talk about why would I hurt somebody else? It's because I'm disconnected from myself. The moment I reconnect with myself and I realize that I am all things, it's like I'll start to treat that person genuinely like if I'm treating myself, but it has to start from me first. I have to love myself first. Because how can I give love to somebody else if I don't love myself first? It's equivalent to me trying to give money to somebody and I'm one of them. I'm one of the poor people. How can I give money to the poor by being one of them, right? If I have a pain on my shoulder, right? I'm not gonna demonize it and fucking, point the finger at it all the time. It's there because either I did something that abused my body, I'm doing something that doesn't cater to the health of the body. I could have been, let's say, holding on to a negative emotion, something that doesn't serve me. I became aware, and in an instant, like a paradigm shift, like a poverty consciousness that doesn't serve you, can change in an instant when you become aware. It's the same way that even a pain on the shoulder can straighten itself out because it might just be pent up emotions in that area. It could be in your lower back, it could be in different areas of your body. But why in different areas of your body? Because your body is the universe. We're using technology now. I use the example of like the kids in Africa and whatnot, the poor people and shit. So the moment that technology came out, there's a lot of benefits to technology. I'm communicating with you in the UK. We're building here. We're expanding our minds and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it also disconnects us from what we were once able to do. Where we call it lost ancient technology. It's nothing's lost. We just changed our way of doing things. Just like we were once children, we're adults now. I don't believe that we're not children anymore. We're still children. We just changed our way of doing things by programming because our body changed. Everything changes. We start aging only because we believe in the aging process. We believe in, or everything is our belief. It's in our mind. It's the same way where if you didn't think that way, then you would think that food is going to kill you. When in actuality, you don't even know if all the food is fake. You could eat whatever you want. It's a mindset. You can heal with peach soda, like I've heard one time, or you know what I'm saying? You could even get healed with like a placebo medicine that really isn't even real because you believe and put your faith into the fact that it's very, very real. So in actuality, let's say the straw man, all that type of shit. I stopped pointing the fingers at that at one point, and I said, you know what? I'm going to integrate this and use this to my advantage. I'm using the system, but I'm back. It's kind of like God, ascending into the heavens, but coming back down and grounding into reality with a different perspective about life now. You get what I'm saying? Now I'm in the frequency of love. So I believe that this is the thing that humans are supposed to do is basically, come back down into this reality and fall in love with the beast. Like you got the word beauty and the beast. Find the beauty, come back down, but realize that out of that beast is what this beauty came from. Because we only call it bestiality or something ugly because we're programmed to think that human beings or fire or electricity or water is the way it's supposed to look. If you go into a deep meditation, like everything you're experiencing in meditation, the moment you start to see it the same way, anthropomorphized in this way, it's part of the mental realm. When you go really, really deep, things start to look very distorted. They don't look beautiful anymore. You know what I'm saying? And we start to fear that only because we put a human emotion into it. This is the point of me disconnecting from this reality and the programs of what I think beautiful is. You get what I'm saying? They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder for that reason. But once you start to see everything distorted, you're the one that's potential energy. You're the one that makes the beauty out of it. You make the shape out of it now because it's now in you. It's in formation. You know what I'm saying? And the way I look at beauty may be beautiful to me, but not beautiful to you. You get what I'm saying? So that's why I say I see the world for how it is. Christ consciousness is basically noticing and realizing the God in everything. Even when I went to California, I realized through all those rich people, I realized God experiencing itself in the physical to the fullest of its potential in the physical. You know what I'm saying? Not separating it and saying, look at these people. They're all about the money and all about that. I'm having my experience there. As long as I don't get lost in the lights and engage the way they're doing it, then I am still aware of who I am and what I am, and I'm only acting. I found myself influenced by that environment, but I don't get lost in that character. You get what I'm saying? I still know who I am. The same way humanity. People get so lost in those lights that they forget what the actual spiritual or metaphysical realms actually are. It's even hard to integrate science and spirituality together because they're so in their mind is in polarities. You get what I'm saying? They're not looking at everything from the singular point. You get what I'm saying? Um, that's the thinking part. I can become aware of programs. I can change my reality by using the thinking part to my advantage to integrate everything to serve me. And it sounds selfish and whatnot, but if I don't worry about me first, how can anything outside of me be in order or good? I have to be, let's say, financially straight to take care of my family. I have to be abundantly and structured here mentally, the same way spiritually, the same way in all kinds of ways. But all that has to be integrated, like your organs working and as one well-oiled machine. You're a well-functioning universe, and you emit one song, one beautiful song instead of a distorted frequency based and influence on something that's not even real. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know. I mean, I know I went a lot in there, but I just wanted because I like that topic. That's why I asked you these questions is to basically see if we can, the way I'm seeing it, the way you explained it, if we're finding common grounds, or if maybe we can expand even to go into different territory. How to explain that,
Yeah.
to a person who's searching, because there's really no searching. You sit
No.
with yourself, and the answers start presenting themselves. Because a lot of people seeking truth seekers, when you're in the position of God, things present themselves to you. I noticed that I stopped looking. Things just came up, and then it's like what they talk about in the Bible, man. The Bible starts to say, "Hey, Jesus performed miracles, and then Jesus says you could do what I do, but even better." I mean, like I said, I did that when I manifested the wood chips in my garden. I didn't know where I was gonna get them. I kept going to Lowe's, Walmart, and I'm like, well, shit. I mean, I don't want those. Those are like chopped up pallets, and they're dyed. I don't want none of that. But I kept still. I knew I was gonna get wood chips. I just didn't know how. I may have gone into the woods and done it myself, whatever. But I set up my garden exactly how I wanted it, as if I had the wood chips, and boom, somebody manifested in my life, brought me the wood chips, and I set up the wood chip with more than enough than what I needed. And that to anybody else, or to, let's say, if I stepped outside of myself, I was like, wow, that seemed like a miracle. Didn't look like it, only because it took a little bit of time. Because miracles would only to a person seem it's a miracle only when it happens in an instant. But we're bound by time. Those things just manifest when we're in the ethers and out of body experiences. We start to think about something and materializes, it shows up, right? But here in this physical realm, miracles and things are always happening to you in the present time. You just it's more or less, what are you aware of the things happening and what's not happening. I'll let you go, man. I went a lot in there, bro. My bad.
Okay. Well, two things that I'll present.
Hmm.
Again, from the bigger picture, I always have to go out to have a look at it. Now, if
Yeah.
we imagine that we are all being dreamt in the mind of God, you see,
Hmm.
when you were speaking there about manifesting your own reality, you was already thinking that you had wood chip, and then all of a sudden you acquired wood chip. Well, that is premised in the law of attraction and
Hmm.
thinking your reality into being. And so that tells us then that we are individuated shards of God, because all we have to do is think about something and make it manifest. Now, you can think about anger, you can think about love, and then you'll make those manifest inside your body and outside. If you go around thinking angry things, then you're going to be projecting that onto everybody, and then people are going to be angry around you. There's going to be violence and all things that pertain to anger. If you go around
Hmm.
exhibiting love, then you're going to get the same. So we get from this world what we project onto it. So therefore,
Hmm.
that tells me that we are mini gods. We are all creating our own reality. The world isn't in any particular way, because the world is premised from how we are feeling and thinking about it. Now, you could have somebody sitting next to you in that car who's suffering from deep depression, and they all think the world's dark and horrible, and it's all mean and nasty. And you'll go, hey man, no, it's pretty cool actually, because you can do this. Well, I mean, are you living in the same world? No, you're not. You're living in different worlds. What
Hmm.
constitutes different worlds? Our minds. So, mind, that's what it's all about. Now, if we look at mind en masse, then you can see that all of these living effigies of consciousness are gathering information, and all this information is being fed back to source. If you are like a pantheist, if you have an adherence to everything being conscious, or an idealist if everything is within consciousness. I'm an idealist. I don't think everything is conscious. I think everything is within consciousness because it's consciousness that creates it, consciousness that is dreaming it. And so when we look at the world and the cosmos like that, then we start to feel very, very differently about it. And if we look at the cosmos and we look at ourselves and we are, psychoanalytical and we've got some wisdom, then we can say, well, it's pretty well like mostly I create my own reality. We've decided that we want to speak to each other because we want to express ourselves and we want to listen to the other person expressing themselves because we consider that it's going to be interesting, it's going to be useful, it's going to be pleasant, and we'll gain something from it. So it's all good. And the chances are people watching it, they have to take something. Doesn't matter how small, they'll have to take something. So therefore, we are a good within the realm of potential of good and bad.
Mhm.
We could be sitting here now cussing the world and everybody, and then everybody will be leaving the video feeling pissed, and then they'll be going kicking the dog and all this. So it's a very prime example that we are all gods in our own way. And so, what do you want to do? You're God. What do you want to do? How do you want to act? How do you want to feel? When people consider they are victims because the government's doing this and the CIA is doing that and the Illuminati, they're doing all this, I always say they're not doing anything to me. They never have been and they never will. Yeah, well, when they start doing this and when they start doing that, look, I've been on this planet now 60 years and I've been doing a lot of shit. And it hasn't ever changed my disposition of they ain't got shit on me. And I will just be like a chameleon in any of these scenarios where I'll just morph into extracting the beauty of this life is because all I'm going to be doing is be projecting the beauty onto it. And I can be in hell proverbially, or I can be in
Mhm.
hell, and I will make of those what my consciousness projects onto them. And so the whole construct of what's going on here fundamentally is mind. And we all have a mind, or we all share mind. And so, therefore, then, we're all capable. I mean, if you read the Bible, then God said this and then it was so. Well, we can say stuff and then it will be so. We can go around going, hey, you're an asshole. And then all of a sudden, you're going to see an asshole make manifest, violent and obnoxious and all the rest of it, the epitome of an asshole. Why? Because you projected that onto him. If you said, "Hey, you're really cool," I aspire to be like you, then you're going to go, "Wow, wow, yeah, no problem, man. Hey, do you want a beer? Hey, let's go for a burger." And all this. Look what we're doing. We're just bending and warping this reality to whatever our God consciousness wants to manifest. So I've tested many, many things in my life, and I make many videos. And the book is extensively about all of this stuff. And when we set out to test how conscious we are, how powerful we are, and we think about the law of attraction, and you think to yourself, I want to experience X or I want to acquire Z. And then you feel it, you own it, you love it, you let it go. And the vast majority of times, that is going to make manifest. And if it doesn't make manifest, then the chances are that you didn't really want it enough. And so we can see from this that we're all master of our own destiny. And then with all this stuff that's going on, we've got a choice of whether we want to watch it, whether we want to believe it, whether we want to be subject to it, and all this sort of stuff. And so, it, if you want to be a victim, be a victim. I don't want to be a victim. I profess that I am God because I'm awoken and enlightened enough to absolutely realize that fundamentally this whole thing is stemming from mind. And I am mind. Therefore, I must be God. It's just a no brainer as far as I'm concerned. We could say, "Oh, there's a God up in the sky," and I'm like, "Well, where do you get that from?" "Oh, it says it in the Bible." Would you believe everything that you read? What do you know? What do you feel? "Oh, I feel small." I'm like, "Well, okay, that's your bag then." I don't feel small, and I don't feel like you. And so, just because I don't feel like you, do you want to take away how I feel and how I see the world? I see the world in a very beautiful way. I'm my own creator. I'm a chip off the old block, and this whole world is for me. And when I've been on DMT and I've been on 200 times, I've seen a lot of stuff. And on one occasion, and I took DMT, and I was in Portugal, and I was sitting high up in a beautiful garden, looking down into a valley of a small town, and there was a lot of noise coming out of the town, and I'm like, oh, for God's sake, where you got to go on this planet to get some peace? There was a still saw, and it was echoing all around the valley, and I'm like, I want to do some DMT. I want to enter into God's kingdom. And you've got that shit going on. I thought, well, I'm here now. I'm going to do it. So I did it. And as soon as I took it, I didn't have a problem at all with that thing. In actual fact, murder, mayhem, and all the Illuminati and all the machinations and every single thing about this cosmos was perfect. When I came out of that, I pondered on that quandary for some time until I concluded, well, the only way that the cosmos could be perfect is if I looked at it with that perspective. And I was looking at it with that perspective. Why was I looking at it with that perspective? Because the DMT took away the ego. And the ego always has got a problem with something. When there's no ego, you are in heaven.
Mhm.
I grasped hold of that, I archived that, and I treasured that. Then, several years later, I discerned that if I really want to know God, the only way I'm ever going to know God is if I let the ego go entirely. Because the Bible and all spiritual religious scripture is emphatic that you can't intellectualize God and spirit. Why? Because God and spirit isn't of material, matrixy, or illusory matter. God, spirit is fundamental. It's like the canvas before you apply paint. And
Mhm.
so that's just how it is. How do you become the canvas? You take away all of the colour. By the time you took away all of these projections that you've got on the world, you end up being the bare canvas. When you are the bare canvas, you merge with the unity of God because God.
Keep talking. I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
Because God is a bare canvas. God is everything and nothing. It's the quantum field. It's energy with the potential of anything which is conceivable. And we all know that we are God in some shape or form because God imagined this and said that and He made it manifest. Well, look what we do. We think of houses and cars and boats. We speak them to other people. They listen to us, and then we have a plan. We write it down, and then we make them somehow. And so we're all images of God. That's what's going on here. And some of us think positively, and some of us think negatively. When we're thinking negatively, we're thinking about atomic bombs, and we're thinking about exocet missiles and tanks, because we're thinking about how afraid we are, and what if this and what if that. So in our deepest and darkest of thoughts, we create something to enable us to escape that fear. And we escape that fear by our projections of being able to obliterate where the fear stems from. And if we're projecting our fears onto other people, and we go, well, the solution is obviously kill them. Or at least we have a threat, a nuclear threat, which we can sleep at night because we know that if they try and fuck us up, well, we're going to fuck them up. and so we're all going to be fucked up. And so that's the whole thing about the nuclear thing that's going on. Because we're so insecure, because we're so premised in fear, we have to, create this measure of security. And now we, most of us can sleep relatively soundly at night because this nuclear threat isn't being promoted like it was in the 80s. It was a big thing. We've got the whole thing with the prime minister of the time, president at the time, the actor, what's his name, the cowboy in the Maggie Thatcher era. He said, "Can you
Um,
imagine if we were being invaded by aliens, we'd all come together and all of our problems would be, disappeared overnight."
mhm.
What was his name?
I don't know.
All right. Okay, so you're younger than me. You don't remember our Maggie Thatcher, probably. And
What year is that in?
82, let's say.
Yeah, I was born in '80, so I don't. I probably
Yeah.
started to become aware
Okay.
probably in the '90s.
Yeah, so I'll remember his name. My goodness me, I've spoken it a thousand
Yeah.
times. But then you've got the old commie hunting. There's commie under every bed, and all this stuff that's been banded around, and it's just different tactics of fear to
Yeah.
keep people towing the line, and so where I'm coming from is I look at the world and I think, well, look, in my life, things have only ever bothered me when I allowed them to. And even in my darkest hour, when I have actually encountered what I would consider to be pure evil, then I've relied on the fact that I am pure love and I am pure good because I know I'm not an evil person. And so, therefore, then, when evil presents itself to me, then I counter that evil with the notion and thought and belief that light will scatter darkness if you truly adhere and believe to it. And so, again, then we can see that we then create our own reality. We can be challenged in many, many facets throughout our lives, but depending on where we're coming from, with our beliefs and with our strength in our foundation, if we are weak, victim. Creating people, then we're always going to be at the mercy of somebody else because we've not self-realized ourselves to be creators. We are the creators of our own thoughts, and if you've got things going on inside your head which are making your day pretty shit, you've got to have a word with yourself because you're doing it, buddy.
Yeah, two things stuck out to me big time here. You said, well, yeah, yeah, I'm God, you're God. What do you want to do? And that's actually a very good question because a lot of the times when you have that realization, not from ego, but you start to notice that there's not fear in your life. You know what I'm saying? There's no more fear because you mentioned fear, and I feel like this is where the fallen state of man is because fear is when you're in your animalistic state. Again, we're observing everything about the animals. Mainly, they're in fear, let's say. But if they look at you as God, and let's say we're in our animalistic nature, I always feel that you find that frequency of love, which is a building harmonious frequency. You have to have trust. The same way an animal has to trust you before it engages with you, because if not, there won't be a bond, right? So they
Yeah.
have to trust you first. Little by little, they come. They test the waters. They're shy at the beginning. I feel like that's how humans are. They tiptoe in things. Sometimes when you feel like you could just trust yourself and let go, like you talked about somebody being in their ego and they can't take a DMT trip for that reason, or let's say they can't fully let themselves go or can't see the Christ consciousness of things because they can't let that animalistic side of themselves go because they still have fear in their heart. And the
Because they're
heart,
hanging on to fear. Let me just say this because this encapsulates it so perfectly. On this
Uh-huh.
DMT trip, when it told me that everything was perfect, the reason why, because DMT is almost identical to dopamine in its molecular structure. And so when we smoke DMT, we get a massive flush of feel good hormones. And because we dissociate from our egoic consciousness, we don't have the ego, so we don't have fear. We have a brain absolutely flushed with feel good hormones. And so we're not able to think anything bad. So that tells us something really, really important. It's the construct of the chemicals within our brains which create our reality. We can
Mhm.
change the construct of the chemicals within our brains, how we're feeling. If we have happy thoughts, we create dopamine. If we have negative thoughts, we create cortisol. This is heaven and hell. And this is what I write about in the book. We create heaven and hell. The authors of the Bibles, all they're doing is projecting what is in our mind, how our minds work. On the left side, we've got all this cognition and language and math, and on the right side, we've got creation, we've got music, we've got fantasy, we've got dreams, and all this sort of thing. And so we couldn't have either one on their own. We need to have the balance. But when we take certain foods and we live certain lifestyles, we increase the probability and propensity of expanding on one or the other. Now, if we are exercising, eating well, and we're being kind, and we're doing all this good stuff, then we're going to spend a lot more time in the right side of our brains, and so we'll be much more willing to love and all that sort of thing. If we're all about money and power, we're in the left side of the brain. Left is hell, right is heaven. Simple as. And so if we look then at God being a chemical, then I don't think, as far as the human being construct goes, you'd be go too far wrong. Now, in my relationship with God, and this is what my whole book is about, I was trying to figure out what God was for 13 years. And I was doing it intellectually. And I'd had many experiences via certain shifts in consciousness, sometimes with psychedelics, sometimes with deep breathing, sometimes in just, bizarre happenings, in some sort of crazy dream, or just having an epiphany, or in a meditation, something like that. I've experienced many, many supernatural things, experiencing different levels of consciousness. And so when we look at consciousness en masse, we can see that all this is available to us. And how I got into the real essence of what God was, I stopped looking with my intellect, because the intellect was why this and why that, and that don't make sense, that's not rational. And I said to myself, oh my God, I had an epiphany one day. And the epiphany was, hang on, hang on, hang on. You know that if you set your mind on something, then you can achieve it, because your thoughts will bend the reality. Now, I've created a lot of stuff, and I've worked with the law of attraction, and I know absolutely how that works. And so I said to myself, well, in view of the fact that God is spirit, God isn't a part of the matrix, he's outside. I have to stop using the matrix tools to find him. And so I thought, well, okay, I'm going to find him with my intuition, with my God consciousness. And so I'm going to hone in on that. And I'm not going to be concentrating on any of all the questions and everything. And I'm just going to set my mind to knowing God. And within several months, meditating 5 hours a day, reading the correct literature to take me into that very, very narrow parameter and dimension, I entered into the kingdom of God. And I knew then that the kingdom of God was a state of mind. We can induce it with certain chemicals, but we can get there without taking any, mass amount of different chemicals. We can take it by training our minds over a period of time, We don't concentrate on anything else. You see, in the Bible, it is absolutely emphatic that if you want to get into the kingdom of God, then you have to go through Jesus. How do you go through Jesus? You become like Jesus. You do all these wonderful things that Jesus wanted you to do, and you don't do any of the things that he didn't want you to do. The reason why he's got these things that you should do and shouldn't do is because the things that you should do give you peace of mind and they settle your heart, and you don't carry any weight. If you're doing stuff that you shouldn't do, you're carrying the weight and you've got fear because you're always looking for when the repercussion's going to come back. So if we toe the line and if we have an adherent and all we do is pray and want to be in God consciousness, we can do it. I found it. I know it's there. I can get back to that anytime I want to. But I can feel also how it's very, very easy just to step off that narrow path, the narrow path of Buddhism, the Eightfold Path, the narrow parameter of thinking in the realm of God and beauty and stillness and love. When we enter into thinking about love, then that's when we create love within us. As soon as we stop thinking about it, the love starts to fade away because it's something that needs perpetuating on a constant basis. If we don't generate it, we won't experience it. We can't. And you see, if we are with somebody that say they love us, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you, then all we're getting that and it makes us feel good. But after a while, we get complacent. Because once you've said it, 50 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, then it's not having the effect. And you want some more, don't you? It's like whatever you're getting used to. But if you generate that yourself, which you can, you generate your own love. When you generate your own love, you generate the mind of God, and that's what.
Aaron, how did you know you were at the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom
Because
of God? Really?
Because it's the best feeling that the human being can ever experience. It's the absolute stillness of heart and mind. There isn't an ounce of fear there. There is only joy. There is the expansion of consciousness whereby you are unified with God. And I know what this unifying thing is because I've experienced it through meditation, through psychedelics, and through training my mind. So I can get there in lots of different ways. And I've read so many accounts of it. And I'm like, well, the point is, you see, what many people do, they only read what other people have said and they've got no first hand experience.
Can
I
I
went
can
to
I
this,
ask interject here 1 second?
yeah.
Do you think that uh, just having no feelings at all is considered having a good feel? Is it considered a good feeling having no feelings at all?
Nirvana means bliss.
Hmm.
And how the Buddhists enter into nirvana is by completely emptying their minds. When
Okay.
you have emptied the mind, you don't have any egoic problems. You're not even a
Hmm.
human being. When you are in that level of consciousness, you are pure awareness. That's God consciousness. Now,
Hmm.
what I say is in my book, I say, look, don't be under the misconception that you have to be filled with joy and
Yeah,
love
yeah, yeah, yeah.
to be in the
That's
kingdom
the
of God.
problem.
No,
That's the
because
problem that I think people have is they trying to
it
chase
is.
that.
It's the wrong.
It's
It's
like
the wrong.
chasing an orgasm. That's not what
It's
it's like
chasing
because
orgasm because once you've had
there
the
is.
orgasm, you've only got one place to go, and that's back
Yeah,
down
that's it.
again. So you end up back
Yeah.
down there again.
You
But
know what's funny
Nirvana,
when you know when
yeah,
you're there, there is no feeling. That's the whole thing. And sometimes that no feeling could feel like a feeling of
that's what it
being
is. That
bliss
no
because
feeling is filled with
because you
everything, which is wonderful.
because you felt like you just emptied everything out. So it's like a light feeling that you've
Yeah.
never felt before. That because it's empty and it's no feeling, you still put it as a good feeling when it's really no feeling at all. And
Yes.
the whole thing is that even neutrality toward the things that you see outside of you, they no longer affect you because you realize that you're beyond those things. That's basically overcoming humanity. So I'm realizing that the kingdom of heaven is here and now where I'm sitting at right now. You get what I'm saying? What I perceive or feel toward it, I'm already using the realm of creation, which is basically what I'm utilizing as my ego to basically compartmentalize and put things as bad or good, favorable or unfavorable. You get what I'm saying? But when you hit that state, there's nothing. It's just basically a complete emptying, and it's
Kingdom of
it's like
God
you
is
just
a frequency.
Yes, I mean it's you determine the frequency. I mean the position you're sitting in now. It's but when I say the kingdom of God right now, I'm like right now I'm in the kingdom of God. Right now as we speak, I'm speaking to you and you are sitting with me in the kingdom of God, even through the virtual means of the internet. We're having a beautiful moment here. We're having a good chat. But for me to have realized that kingdom of God, I had to go within and empty out and let everything go of what I was programmed to believe I am from the moment I was birthed into this existence.
Yeah,
You know, it made me realize I was never even really born, man. It's like when you go into a dream and you're in the dream, you feel like it's so real. Everything is happening until you wake up and you're like, oh shit, that was just a dream, but everything felt so real. But were you ever really ever born in the dream? You were never born in the dream. You know what I'm saying? And when you're about to die, for some reason, you just wake up in this in this motherfucker, right? So it's like that. It kind of feels like that. Where even when I was in such a deep state, certain glitches of this reality, whether it be my mom, my dad, my kid, who I'm like, I love with all my heart. It all felt like it was just distant. Like it wasn't even like it felt like it was just not even real. It was just a distant memory, like when you wake up in the morning and you had a profound dream, but during the day it just you start to think about it and it just kind of fadey. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
That's what it kind of felt like, and I realized that everything that we're experiencing here is just based on memory. You get what I'm saying? I have a memory. Let's say if I woke up tomorrow with amnesia, would I feel that for my son? I would look at him like just another snot rocket. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't say, "Oh my God," because all these attachments is just based on memory. It's just based on
Emotion.
because we have memory of like the intellect, but then we have our memory that we're programmed with on a deep DNA cellular level. Like let's say, for example, we've talked about the kids in Africa. We'll bring that example again. Let's say the moment that they had the most, because I find God in the most simplistic of things. Sometimes people miss it is because they're trying to look for it in the most complex things, and it's really in their face. It's very simple. That's why I said everything is right in my face right now. The gifts and presents are being presented to me now. Am I aware of them though? That's the thing. If I'm not aware of them, that's on me, right? But it's on me. It's really where I'm looking at these kids. They're playing hockey. You know what I'm saying? They're in their most simplistic state. They have a more of a connection and more of a love. Look at, for example, what back in the day there was no cell phones. There was nothing. We had beepers. I had more of a memory of the phone numbers. I had more of a connection going meeting out a girl. You know what I'm saying? I would go meet her in person and what. Now it's fucking like scrolling left and right. Through apps to find a fucking partner. It's just there's no connection, right? So it's the same
2,000
way,
years ago, Ziggy,
right?
it was
Uh,
said that the kingdom of God is within you all. And then it was
yeah,
also said, people will look and yet they do not see. The kingdom of God is
right.
within you all and without you all. It's
I,
everywhere. So it's a
hold that
simple
thought. Hold that thought. I want to just finish this. Why it's going to be short because I wanted to talk about it before and I lost it. But the kids that were in their simplest form without this technology, I felt had more of a connection to
most
themselves. They have more of a connection with God, right? The internet, all this comes out. But here's where the memory and all that comes in. Let's say now I was experiencing that at one point. I have my child. My child comes into the world of technology. They will never experience the simplicity of how things were before. You get what I'm saying? So I feel like as things move down and down the line as humanity, they have this idea that they think they're evolving, but they're really not evolving. They're really going backwards because see the thing is that technology, new sneakers, the latest fucking cars. They think that this is a form of evolution, but the evolution is really you're de-evolving spiritually. You're evolving more in this material realm that you're putting more of an importance to. And then if you was to explain that to my kid now, let's say, or like his kids, it'll be hard for them to even fathom what the simplicity of God once was because they never lived that experience. Only the person that had that experience can basically just pass it down and explain it to them. What I wanted to explain before that I lost was the whole ancient lost technology. We were once able to build pyramids, able to do such great things, and now we can't even fathom, even with the current technology we have, how to replicate those pyramids. And it's not even just the pyramids, it's just the way they're aligned with the constellation of the stars, how they're laid on ley lines, the way they're structured from the inside out, how they, certain resonances in there that you can basically harness and channel energy out. It's very very late tech. It's a very advanced technology, but I feel that it's not ancient lost technology. It's that we changed our way of doing things. You know what I'm saying? And the reason I say this is because our body, I felt, is what we used as the instrument to create these things, but we stopped using it. And as we went down the line, we kept coming into more and more technology, and that atrophied, that ability atrophied. So we now can't even fathom how the ancient Egyptians would have built that. And we even use it, it's so unfathomable that we actually use conspiracies of aliens helping them, right? That aliens had to help them because we discredit ourselves for being able to do that, that we have to utilize other things outside of us to say that's more advanced and that's the only way we could have actually built that is with the help of something outside of us. You see how we're always looking for things outside of us and never that we can actually do it? Even the symbol of Christ, when you look at Jesus as a man, right? If I look at that inverted, where Christ or that image of Jesus was created in the image of God, not the image of God outside, but in my image, then we start to say, okay, well, if the mind works in symbols, the only reason this was created in that way is to be able to fathom or have a grasp of what God is, because you can't really talk or explain of God. But then look at the stories. He was whipped. They did this to him. They did that to him. And then we associate with that. I'm telling you, it's like a mental fuckery, a big programming where we're created in the image of God, but being submitted by somebody who could have just zapped everybody away. You know what I'm saying? He just basically died for our sins and whatnot. It's kind of like putting us in a submissive state subconsciously. We have to basically do those things and depend on government and look at that as, oh, they're our daddies because we depend on them to basically take care of us if we go to wars and whatnot. And I believe this is the true fallen state of man, is just being in that animalistic state, having a dependency on something outside of them. My cats, my dog depend on me to feed them. If not, they're going to starve. You get what I'm saying? Unless they're a wild animal, it's a different story. They have more of a survival, which in my opinion, when you look at the word "sir," it's over living. They're basically living above living. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Instead of just trying to uh, how do you call that? Just living. You get what I'm saying? But I'll let you get in there because there's something else I want to cover. In this video on Christ and the animalistic nature, and particularly the real, true fallen state of man, and how can man overcome and get overcome humanity, being born again of the Father, as they would say in the Bible, and what that even means. You get what I'm saying? Instead of just taking it literal, how we can apply that in a in a logical way. You know what I'm saying? Everything has a logical explanation to it without sounding like you're too far out there. You know what I'm saying? Even people saying they can go to the moon or Mars, in my opinion, that's too far out there. And I want to cover that because that's actually something that I want to get into with you is, can we even leave this planet? You know what I'm saying? And that's something that a lot of people have debates on, if the earth is flat or round. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to go too crazy. I want to cover those topics because it deals with perception, metaphysics, and actually what we're doing here in the physical realm and what our role here is to live out as our life, as the authors of our book.
In my book,
Mhm.
you would have got already to the astral projection part.
No, I didn't get to that
No?
part yet. No,
Okay,
no,
so
not the
in
astral
there,
projection part.
I explain about a dozen astral projections, leaving the body, spirit fully conscious in another realm.
Hmm.
And so all these things, they are possible, different states of consciousness. And so we have to be mindful about that. Then we have to be careful about how much emphasis we put on Jesus as being the pinnacle or being the portal, to our salvation and all that, because we have to understand that the world is a big place, albeit America doesn't want the world to be a big place, and it only likes to talk about itself. And the Western Hemisphere, we have adopted this new religion. It wasn't always the case. We were pagans and we worship many other gods and this that, and the other. But now because it's more useful to Kill off all the other gods and just let's have one god and then use this and then build effigies and this, that, and the other. So Jesus has become the thing. But, Jesus is no more than Hermes Trismegistus. He's no more than Thoth. No more than any notion that anybody would have whereby they want to anthropomorphize a god into a human being. So that's all that is. It's just to make God look a little bit more palatable so people can understand it.
That's right. That's right.
But having said that, I have never had an adherence to Christianity, God, or Jesus, and yet. I had Jesus come to me on one occasion through a deep meditation and tell me that if I wanted to experience true love, then I would have to go through him. And I'm like, what the fuck's all that about? Tears running down my face and crazy vibrations and all this different sort of stuff, which I've read about in William James's religious experiences. And there was one guy that had an identical experience, and he was a renowned pastor with a lot of respect and this, that, and the other. And so, why did I have this Jesus thing? And I had no adherence. I don't put a picture about him, and I never will. But he told me, if you want to know what love is, then you got to come through me. And I'm like, well, what do you mean through you? Then I realised that, well, that was unconditional love. That's the only depiction anywhere in the world of unconditional love through Jesus, from what I can gather. Jehovah was a conditional love. Allah is a conditional love. And I don't know about lots of other gods, but Jesus was unconditional. It doesn't matter anything. As long as you believe in me, as long as you love me, you're in. Heaven is you, your bag. As soon as you believe in me, I become you and you become me. I've experienced that. Once I got into the realm of looking at what this tulpa, what this egregore actually is, a manifestation of human consciousness in a human form. Once you get inside that in your head, then you can create your own tulpas, your own manifestation, and you can create that space. And so truly I say unto you, the kingdom of God is within you all. Yes, you got to find it. I found it. And so finding that then, having absolute ecstatic, blissful states, eradicating the ego, because that's what heaven is. It's the pure eradication of ego. And all we've got to do is just to go back to the Garden of Eden. Well, what happened? As soon as you acquired knowledge, you end up under the jurisdiction of Satan. And the whole world is governed by him, which is, basically hell. And heaven's up there. Where is heaven? Heaven is when you stop thinking about everything. Then you enter back into the naivety and the numbness of the primates that Adam and Eve were. When you've got a clear mind like Buddha, you enter nirvana. Even the Kabbalists, they speak about the exact same thing. When you're in the deepest of meditations, you enter into the unity with God. It says it throughout all religions and all spiritual stuff all over the world, everywhere. It's a clear, still mind without fear, without angst, without all the rest of the bullshit. That's God. We're all God, and we can find it when we stop with this bullshit.
That's very important what you're talking about with the meeting Jesus in that state. See, here's the whole thing. Remember, I just spoke about there's always memory in your DNA that it's housed there from like.
Jesus came to me after 1 hour in the deepest of meditations when my mind was absolutely still and beautiful, and then
Right.
Jesus made manifest on this mural behind me and the picture there, and I'm like, what the fuck? Is that Jesus? I've had it 3 years, and I went there. It's like, fuck, it's Jesus. I went and lied back down, looking at it, and all of a sudden, all different sorts of waves and vibration, all this shit was going like I was possessed. Tears coming down my face, and then the voice in my head, which I knew to be Jesus, said that.
Right.
He showed me
that's
what
crazy because
was the most powerful experience I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, in my observation, Jesus is the son anthropomorphized as a man, and the whole thing is that this whole reality is lit up by the sun. That's the generator of what you're observing here in this reality. The whole thing is that even when people die, they say they go to Jesus or go toward the light. But the more you follow that light, you're basically, it's where the whole circle of reincarnation, in my opinion, just keeps happening because you keep going toward that light. You find that inner light within you, but when you're in a deep meditation, you're sort of in the realm of death. It's
There's no
like they say
light
sleep
there.
is the
In the deepest
yeah,
of meditations, there's
right,
darkness. That's all there is.
right,
That's what you
and
are,
and
that's
that's
what God is.
right, and that's why, do you go toward that? Even when people die, they go toward that light. And I even see the word. One thing that I always see every time I hear somebody speaking about Jesus Christ, they say, "Oh, you will have everlasting life." I'm like, well, what you sound like when you say everlasting life, you make it sound like life is good, but death is bad. So you're separating the two, saying one is good, one is bad. What is bad about death? They're like, no, death is bad. And I said, so you say death is bad, right? So then, what is death? Why do we actually live to meet our demise that eventually is going to be a bad thing? Why am I living or trying to be good to eventually meet something that's going to be bad for me, right?
Yeah,
So I told him this. I'm like, well, everlasting life. I mean, you're just basically recycling yourself in the same light, and that's everlasting life. And that's not a form of expansion or evolution. You get what I'm saying? Like, if you're and that's the thing. Like, we have memory, but it's not necessarily our memory. Like you said, you don't have pictures of him, you don't have nothing there in your house that would give you an energy to say, oh, why do I meet Jesus? But that's the whole thing. There's memory in us. It could have been from ancestors, from families, that could have been diehard religious people. The
yeah,
same way I said, me, I could have been like one of those people who live simplistically. My child comes into the existence of technology, but he can't fathom what I was once experiencing as something where it's true advancements or technology. He's coming into something that's false, right? So now it would, let's say if he became awoke to some extent of some spiritual nature, and now he has a memory or an experience that I may have had that woke up within him. He wouldn't even be able to explain it because he never lived it. He never fathomed it. He can't fathom it because he never experienced it, right? So do you get what I'm saying or no? It's like something
yeah.
that
No, I
that
get what
that
you're
gets
saying. But
passed
look,
down.
what
Hmm.
what happens is when I take DMT, because I am Western oriented. That is my culture. That's my life. I only see Western images. When I see God in the clouds in the sky, it's a Socratean type
Right,
image.
right.
It's not of
But do you not think that that's waking something up in you that's passed down from your ancestors to some extent, and it's
it,
and it's
it collect.
like it's more or less like purging out. Maybe something's purging, or like when you go on certain trips, you purge, and in order for it to come out, it has to express itself to some extent.
Well, I
So do you
think
think
that
that maybe that?
when
Mhm.
we are seeking, when we have the deep rooted desire, like when I wanted to find the nature of God, I found it, um,
Uh,
and so when I was taking Amanita muscaria, the red and white mushroom,
yeah,
I was embodied by a wolf, which is indigenous to the northern hemisphere historically. I was embodied by a Viking, again indigenous. Viking blood is in my
mhm,
blood. Vikings
yeah,
invaded this nation 900 years ago. Then I was embodied by a primal man. We've all been primal men. I wasn't embodied by a human with the head of a bird or the head of a crocodile or any of this ancient Egyptian collective unconsciousness. If I had it embodied something like that, I'd go, wow, I am actually tapping into the unconsciousness of that period, that time. And that would have been bizarre for me because why would my spirit have made contact with that? Unless maybe from my life, thousands of years ago. But everything that I dream and I experience on psychedelics or otherwise, they're all Western oriented. So whenever we want something, whenever the consciousness en masse has something to deliver to us, of course, it can't deliver it to me in fucking Chinese.
mhm,
I could have had a Chinaman. I could have had, let's say, um, someone from India or someone from China, one of their ancient gods. I could have had them speaking to me in Chinese, and I'm like, what the fuck? But that never happened. The voice speaking to me was in my own language. And when I see images and things, I've looked for this picture of Jesus on this mural behind, and I can see where it used to be, but I can't see it anymore. But when I saw it on that day, it was so powerful and it lingered there for several days after, because when my daughter came round, I told her about the experience and I said, look, there it is. Can you see it? And she could actually see it. Now it's gone. And I'm like, why
But
is
what do you
that?
think that was, though? Why do you think that happened?
Why do I think it happened? Because I was seeking desperately, and I had a lot of emotional things because I was discounting love. I didn't believe in love, and I was being heavily compromised at the time because of my lack of loving. So I had two experiences. I had one where Jehovah chastised me for 3.5 hours because I discounted love, and then I had Jesus come to tell me. So Jehovah was the tough love. This happened about 4 or 5 months before. He tore a new arsehole in me for 3.5 hours, reciting to me all of the transgressions I'd ever made about love and all of the love that I rejected when people wanted to love me. He
What is
showed
your
me
clear definition of love, Aaron? Like, just
God,
what is your clear
God and
God?
consciousness, God and
But
consciousness.
what is God?
God is consciousness. Love is consciousness. They're all the same
So
thing.
how do you explain simply, like if I was a 10-year-old, how do you explain? So everything's rooted out of consciousness. How do you explain consciousness in the most simplest of forms? Because there's a reason why I want to ask this. Because again, this is why I feel like people just get lost and they start to externalize these things. What is consciousness in its most simplest form? Because I
Well,
can be consciously aware of, let's say, a book in a corner that I wasn't aware of. Now I'm aware of it. So you know what I'm saying? It's like there's an awareness, there's consciousness, but what is that in actuality, and how can that tie into everything that you just wrote down the line from that?
if I could answer that, I'd be the only
Mm-hmm.
person ever on the planet to have done so.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I made a video today, one of the five, and in this video, maybe I joined it with two videos. I'm speaking on the same subject. I'm saying, look, we don't know what consciousness is. All the scientists, well, my camera's just gone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I see your emblem. Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. I just saw
Yeah,
your
okay,
emblem
I don't know why that's gone.
popping
Maybe
up.
come back. All of the scientists and clever people on the planet, forever and ever and ever, they have never ever definitively discerned what consciousness is. They can only ever very loosely speculate that it's a byproduct of the brain. Complete nonsense. We don't know what love is. Nobody has ever definitively defined what love is. And if you ask 1,000 people what love is, you get 1,000 different answers. So therefore, that is non-definable also. Consciousness, love, and God, they all enter into the same category of being non-defined. So what I say is, well, it's evident to me that they're all the same thing. I've experienced God with my consciousness and it being all love. And so if I'm going to experience God, then God has to enter my consciousness, or I have to enter his consciousness. There has to be a unity together. And that's what the whole unified thing's about. That's why we're always endeavoring to get unity with God. When we get unity with God, we go deep in our core of our own consciousness and we enter into the consciousness field, which is devoid of ego. And so there is no way to explain to a kid or a fool the properties and the philosophy of how to know God, love, and consciousness, because these things have been heavily debated and pondered upon for millennia.
Well, I'm gonna try to explain it my way, and then tell me if you're in line with it. Okay?
Yeah,
The I see your camera back. Welcome back, bro.
thank you.
So with consciousness, I mean, see, here's the thing. Like I just spoke about it before. When if I was basically aware that I'm Super Mario, and then I'm also aware that I'm being played by God, right? And God tells me, hey, there's a possibility that you can go around the character, but Mario says, well, this override, I cannot do it. That's like God telling me, hey, you can fly actually, but I'm trying to fly. I will never be able to fly as a human, right? In another form, I can. But if I'm in a dream, in my dream, I'm technically unconscious. If I become lucid, it's another level of consciousness now. I'm aware and things start to bend and mold to my
And you can
perception of
fly.
how I see things.
You're
Right.
conscious, you're dreaming,
Right,
and
right,
you
I'm gonna
can
get
fly.
I'm gonna get to that part right now. This is where I see consciousness as self-actualization, right? It's a self the singular. I'm now self-actualized, right? It's a difference between, just going on automatic where you're awake but still asleep. Now, this Christ consciousness, as I said, it's kind of like I flew up into the heavens, but I come back down in a different form. I'm now in a different perspective and perception about life, where the things I once pointed at and I saw separate to me are actually me. I realized they were within me. You're big on quantum science, quantum mechanics, right? The observer theory. Let's say, for example, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody was around to hear it, did it ever really fall? You get what I'm saying? Like, nobody was there to hear it or see it. Did it really actually happen? Nobody was there. So when it comes to awareness, I'm aware of myself at that moment. The Christ consciousness that I'm talking about is basically just coming down to unity. Love is a building frequency. I said this with the garden is when I'm out there, it's like everything's working in harmony. You get what I'm saying? There's nothing happening just for the benefit of something else. There may be bugs that get eaten, but we put that as a bad thing. But how do we know that bug didn't want to get eaten by that other bug? And it's a form of evolution, because in a way where we hear we are what you eat, or what you eat becomes you. How do we know that we are not, like when they say, oh, let God take over the wheel, like we hear this in religion? How do we run away from it? We don't trust ourselves because we don't know that we are God. How do we know that we're not meant to be consumed by that energy for us to embody and become that? You get what I'm saying? Like, we only look at it because we're losing control of ourselves. But that letting go, the love, is the trust. The trust is the secret ingredient to that loving frequency. You get what I'm saying? In our human perspective of how to see things. When I'm out in the garden, I'm experiencing love because I'm experiencing growth. But it's starting from me first. There's a passion within me that I lose perception of time. I lose perception of everything. I even forget to eat. That means that my ego is asleep, because when I'm aware of too much of the animal wants to eat, the animal's bored. But when I'm immersed into that, I'm in a meditative state,
Exactly. Just,
awake.
just let me
I'm
interject.
gonna leave. I'm gonna leave. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead. I'm gonna, because I was gonna say it's awake but dreaming, and I made videos on this. It's more or less, I had this realization where I'm like, man, I'm touching the soil. My body is eating. This is a brain. The whole skin is a brain. I'm realizing, and not only that, but you see how you said that you have energy to do one video after another one. I get to that point where I'm so immersed in nature, it even stimulates me to put videos up, but not for clout or attention or to seek people outside of me. You know why I do it? I'm journaling. And the moment I'm journaling, I go back and I'm like, fuck. It's as if my future self in the future, the more advanced wisdom part of me, makes a video, is channeled through me, and then I go and look at this video later on, and I'm like, motherfucker, yo, like I don't even remember saying that shit. And I'm like, that's profound.
You mean
You know what
you
I'm
the
saying?
message, the universe speaking
That's
to
right,
you? That's right.
right.
So what
It's
you do?
multi-dimensional. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you are in the moment and you say you forget to eat, you forget you are Ziggy, and you forget all in sorts of stuff because
Oh,
you are actually
absolutely.
in the moment, because you are so enthusiastic about what you do. Now, I said the last time we spoke that recently I looked up the etymology of enthusiasm, and enthusiasm is very close on entheogen. Entheogen is what very often people call psychedelics. It's just another terminology for expressing what we experience when we take psychedelics. And entheogen means to be with God. Enthusiasm it's got the same prefix, the same root of entheos, which is Greek
Mm-hmm.
for to be with God. And so when
That's right.
you are enthusiastic in your garden, you're with God. And that's why you feel so
Yes,
wonderful. And
yes.
you don't have an ego that you've forgotten all all about that shit. And that's when you are how the Creator created us to be.
That's right.
We're
Right.
working the land. And this then harkens back to the Tao Te Ching, because the Tao Te Ching is emphatic that when we are at the absolute base level of human living, with bare feet and hands in the ground, that's when we are at one with Mother Nature and the cosmos. And then all of our problems, they disappear, because everything we're doing is the cycle of life.
That's
We're
right.
planting, we're growing, we're reaping, we're eating, we're defecating, we're feeding the earth. The earth is turning inside about each other,
That's right.
and it's
You
massive
observe those
state.
cycles,
This is
everything
very
happening
Rudolf
in real time.
Steiner. Rudolf
That's right.
Steiner, very way of farming and gardening.
That's
His
right.
theosophy, is all about working with the spirit of the world. And
Mhm.
it's an absolute wonderful thing. And so you've experienced it, and you know it, and you've thought about it, you've remembered it, you've categorized it, and that's what we do as intelligent people. Whereas the vast majority of people have never realized these God moments. And what
Right.
these moments are, they're described in Kabbalah as sparks. And what these sparks are, it is said that, through their certain very complicated, convoluted mythology, that basically we have come here to gather up the sparks. And once we've gathered up the sparks of God, then we are whole again and we're free to go back. And so what in throughout our whole lives, we are going to be gathering up these sparks of moments like that when you realize I'm in the kingdom of God, I'm at one with
That's
God.
right.
That's a spark. That's what you came here to collect,
That's right.
motherfucker. And when you've collected all these things and you've got enough of them, then you are like an enlightened being, as far as the
Right.
Buddhist is concerned, and you don't need to come back because you've gathered up all the sparks. You've had all the lessons, and some of these lessons can be delivered to us in the most traumatic and devastating of occasions. But out of that, we grow, we
That's
become
right.
nurtured, we're closer to God. And so, pain, suffering, they all have a purpose. Without the pain and suffering, we will never be awoken to
That's
our
right.
God consciousness. So, it's all
That's what we're talking about. Sometimes we talk. That's what we say. Out of darkness comes light. Out
yeah.
of the ugly hell comes the beauty part of things. That's why we gotta. And we say that we are in a certain light only because we were in a certain darkness at first. Here's the funny part: is I'm from New York City originally, and my job was very you know very left brained and very money oriented and whatnot. But the funny thing is that once I don't know, I was always very curious, even as a child. I always had too many questions for me to be dwelling in that realm too long. I was making very good money, and you know what I'm saying, but I was working for somebody else. The whole thing is, once I moved out of the city and moved here to North Carolina, I knew nothing about plants, but it's just nature in general influenced me to some extent, and this is why it's important to be part of the whole ride the wave of the thinking man. And what we have over animals is you can find the beauty of things, but the things that don't serve you, you have the ability to kick out and discard from your life, and that's you using your thinking mind. You're using the brain for what it's designed to be used for, not just subject yourself to something because you think that you have no other choice. Like if I take my cat to a fucking place where he's not going to be happy, he has no choice. He's under my order and leadership. We
So,
don't have that, right?
do you
But
think
but
you?
wait, I'm gonna finish this part real quick. So, and it's not to say that everybody is gonna find love or God doing what I did by gardening, because some people don't like gardening. Some people, you find it in your own unique and individual way. You get what I'm saying? I happen to find it in that way because what's funny is I look at states as mental states. When I'm in New York, I can't help but to notice how my mental state changes versus when I'm here, how my mental state is totally different. You get what I'm saying? And it's not to say that I'm at the mercy of my environment, but it does have an influence on me, and I decide if it's gonna help me in any kind of way with some type of mind altering experience. This is why I even had an experience with that, to look at plants that people say are not sentient. And the thing is that everything is alive. You know what I'm saying? Everything's alive. People think that just because you have human intellect, you're more advanced than something else, and it's not. In actuality, the plants are there, right? And they're there because of you, but they also are there and keeping you alive, giving you something that you need to keep your brain fully functioning. And I had the realization that I am actually the brain, the mind, and the nervous system of these plants. This is why sometimes when we have psychedelic experience or mind altering experience with the plants, we start to say, well, is am I having the experience, or is the plant having the experience through me, and I'm actually observing this in real time? You get what I'm saying? But I'm so ingrained in the body that sometimes I may say this is me. It could be a bad trip or a good trip, but it depends how I perceive it and how I take it in. Because you're going to be shown what you have in you regardless, and that's determining if you have a good trip or a bad trip. But when I talk about the plants, when I talk about everything, everything is basically I'm the one that's why people say you have a green thumb. You have good energy. The plants react to you in that way. It's like a symbiotic relationship as well. They give off oxygen to keep your brain functioning so you could keep them alive. You know what I'm saying? Because they take in what you take out. It's like the mycelium network underneath working in symbiosis with what's going on above. You don't see that because it's happening. It looks like it's happening separate to itself, but it's actually happening in symbiosis. Only because one needs to be kept down, the other one needs to stay up. There's why I started to have the realization of like demons, angels, and like what humans are. I look at the demons as the demons need to live underground. They can't survive above ground, like the mycelium network, but it feeds the tree from underneath, and in kind, what's above feeds that mycelium network down to the tree just so that it can actually sustain itself. But when that doesn't happen, this is why we see things actually taking over us, like consuming us. Like if the tree becomes dead, then what happens? That's when you see the mushrooms growing on the side of the trunk of the tree, and you start to see it become now parasitic. So the demons are supposed to be down. The angels are not meant to fall. And humanity, yeah, humanity falls, but we have the ability to keep getting back up and try again and try again. You get what I'm saying? But throughout this lifetime, we have to become aware of that. You know what I'm saying? If not, you're just going to stay in that same die, wake up, the same way you go to sleep, wake up. You have an opportunity to start your day over again, and you're a different person than you were yesterday. But if you're not aware of your programs, you stay in that same flow. You get what I'm saying? I hope that makes sense. That's what I wanted to get out as far as like what I've observed just being in nature and my realizations with how I use things to my advantage to benefit others, because benefiting others I also realize is benefiting me as well. It's no different than if I have a business, I'm not going to try to steal money from people. If I steal money from people, how could they buy my stuff? You get what I'm saying? I kind of use that
Short
analogy.
lived.
Everybody has to be sustained well. It's like
Yeah,
it's kind of like being a good leader, a good boss. You don't put your employees down. They have to work for you. They need you need them there to keep your business moving, and it also it doesn't make you a slave to the business. That's how even with nature. I set up my garden where it's like self-sustaining, and it works like it does in nature. Nobody's watering or fertilizing trees in nature, right? It's self-sustaining. That's God. That's because it's in a growing harmonious frequency. When we do it in an unnatural way, we try to mimic it, or we don't have an understanding of how it truly works, then we actually end up finding ourselves becoming a slave to the land. It's like me keeping my employees stupid, and I got to still sustain the business myself, when in actuality if I make them as good as me, then I can just sit back and observe, and the business is running. I'm not, and I have now a more. I'm a bird's eye view, and I can also do other godly things rather than entertaining too much of the humanity of things. I hope that made sense.
yeah, yeah. Let me just go toilet, and we'll come back and we'll talk about the symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, I can hear you. Keep talking. I got to just do over here. Just keep talking.
oh,
I
well,
can hear
you
you.
won't be able to hear me because I'm going out here. I was alarmed then.
Well, okay. I'll wait for you, and this way there's not a big silence. But yeah, I mean, it's very interesting how everything in you can observe nature, and you can observe things just working with each other. Even a tree that falls, it appears to be a bad thing. The tree died, but that tree is basically now nutrients for something else in the soil, in the garden. So uh, we got these arguments, for example, with like veganism and whatnot. This is why I'm so big on it, because it's just another religion. Everything is that's religified is something that I actually have a big a big, what do you call that, a big light on. And the reason why is because through that, everything being religified creates movements, and that's what basically entertains more of this illusion of duality, everything being separate. You get what I'm saying? And that's the biggest problem here. Like, they'll say plants aren't sentient, but that's because they're just looking at it from just one point of view. And this is where you really got to combine science and spirituality together. Were you able to hear me or no?
Yeah, yeah, heard it all.
Yeah,
So, I
yeah.
mean, the whole
I'll let you
symbiotic,
talk. Give me 1 second.
yeah, the
Yeah, you
symbiosis.
could keep talking though.
I
Mhm.
mean, the world is symbiotic. We can never lose sight of that because when we lose sight of it and we start to destroy, the reproductive system of the oceans and the forests and the waterways and all that sort of stuff, then we it's like we are causing our own bodies. If we are heavily smoking and drinking and not exercising and doing all those sorts of things that are bad for us, then we are destroying ourselves. And so we're doing this to the world in many respects. And we have to realize this, and we have to realize that it's a very, very fine balance with the ecosystem of the world. And so we have to relate that exactly the same as a very fine balance of our own symbiosis within our bodies. We can't let things get out of balance, otherwise we start to get ill, and then our psyche is affected, and then we start, acting and speaking negative. So we have to have this deep-rooted connection to spirit, because spirit, Mother Nature, Gaia, is spirit. And anybody that is so stupid enough and naive enough to think that this cosmos doesn't have spirit, it's so stupid beyond measure. All you got to do is just to ask people, like Dawkins. So you don't believe in spirit or God or anything like that. Well, what is it that's actually enabling you to think now? Oh, the brain. Well, where's the consciousness come from? And all of a sudden there's no answer. Well, surely it would make much more sense to consider that your consciousness is enabling everything. It's like the electricity in a game which enables you to play Mario or whatever, The Sims or something. Without the electricity, none of it would work. It doesn't make sense. You Dawkins and people like that, they seem to be saying that the whole thing would work without spirit. The whole thing would work without electricity. We would be perfectly functional without spirit, which is the electricity. I akin man to be like light bulbs. And the light bulb has the construct of a light bulb, and it has the filament. And, it's a light bulb until it has the power source switched on. When the power source switched on, it then illuminates, and it becomes a certain thing. It's a manifestation of an idea. Without the electricity, then what's a light bulb? It's nothing. It's dead. And so these atheists and the like, they're a variety of mutation, as far as I can see,
Yeah.
of humanity. I don't think that they were an old version. I think they're a new version. I think intuitively, instinctively, we were all connected with Mother Nature, because we couldn't not be. It would be absolutely absurd that we didn't worship the sun and the seasons and the plants and the water. We'd have the greatest of respect for everything. We would know that everything is us. It's all the same. But now, because of our detachment, because of our indoctrination and hypnosis and ignorance, then we are becoming more and more like what you're speaking about. The only thing now that most people depend upon or use as their minds is their phone. They don't have a mind of their own. And if you ask them
Yeah.
a question, they're just
Yeah.
going to Google it and tell you that
Absolutely.
that's it. And I'm, what the fuck do
That's
you
right.
know? Do you know anything? And like Joe Rogan's always saying, people are so dumb fucks these days. You can take 100,000 people and you can scatter them in the desert or in the forest and everything, and 99.9% of them will be dead within a week, because they are, in actual fact, dumb fucks. If they had
Yeah.
any intelligence, they would instantly know what to do. But how many people could build a house? How many people could light a fucking fire? Ziggy, how many people could light a fire from raw materials?
Hmm.
One in
Yeah.
a million, I'm telling you now. And
Yeah.
so they'll all be dead in no time. And yet they think they're the most intelligent. The only thing that's intelligent about the human being is we've got a memory, and we ride on the shoulders of giants, and we've passed this shit on for years and years and millennia. And that's the only reason we can lay claim to being intelligent, because individually,
Yeah.
the vast majority of people are dumber than fucking the vast majority of animals. You see animals, they've got this innate intelligence. They know when a storm's coming, they know when the tsunami's coming, they know fucking a lot of stuff, man. Human
Yeah.
being, pink ape, stupid fucks.
But that's, you see, that's the whole thing. That was the, you see, I made a video on that too. How do animals can be very, very closely associated to their environment, but man is so disconnected from the environment that they wouldn't know what to do in a storm. They don't know how to, let's say self-sustain. It's kind of like when you have a domestic pet, right? They depend on their owners to take care of them. Well, an animal in the wild is taking care of themselves, and I feel like this is what the problem is. We became too dependent. We only shop in supermarkets, and that's all we depend on. Nobody knows how to grow anything anymore. Nobody knows how to do anything for themselves. Nobody. It's That's the thing, is they become dependent on just the government, and when they can't do it, they depend on, like, let's say, government help, just to basically help them with their life. This is all a self-dependency. That means that that's really your daddy's, your God. You get what I'm saying? The moment you could become more self-sufficient, I feel like that's where you're becoming more in a, I would say, a God frequency. It's kind of like you're more in charge of your life. You're the author, the authority, the author of your book, of your story, of your book. You're not following, like you just said. You Google and look for other things outside of you to help you with your information, and that's the problem. Nobody, because all that shit keeps you from thinking for yourself. The moment you can start thinking for yourself, it's coming from your space, from you're actually starting to use your mind.
Yeah, when we're living symbiotically, when we take from the land, at the same time, we've got to be putting back. When we reap, we have to sow. And when we cull an animal, then we have to make sure there's plenty more on the way. So we've got to be breeding. And so all we're doing is when we're living close to nature, when we're living by the Tao, we are perpetuating the cycle of life. Now, what the vast majority is of doing now, we are so far detached from that cycle that nobody's doing it anymore, and we're doing it on such a massive greedy version of extracting all the nutrients out of the land, cutting all the forest down and polluting all the oceans and everything like that. We're just seriously shooting ourselves in the foot.
Aaron, why do you think that people aren't doing that? Why do you think that this is the way it is now?
Well,
Like, people aren't. Okay.
Because the way the world's going now, and it's since the advent of probably the Industrial Revolution, whereby you can enslave a massive amount of people, and you can have one man sitting on the top of an empire. And then he's got his subordinates underneath, which are the managers and this, that, and the other. And then you got all the slaves, down below. It's a natural progression of the hierarchical system of the human being. And so, it's just one of those things. It's perfectly natural to us to do that. I mean, when we were farming, then it's natural to get a bigger farm, to farm more land, to create more useful plows and sowing mechanisms and all this. And then, it's kind of like, well, I'm going to employ more people. I'm going to utilize more people. I'm going to extract their resources. In the old days, we'd extract the resources of a bison to pull the plow. Then we, would use human power, and then we now use machines, and the humans have become obsolete. Well, what else can we deploy this energy for? Let's get them packing chickens. Let's get them doing this, and let's get them doing that. And now, of course, with the advent of the AI, then we're going into a realm where the human beings are becoming mostly obsolete. And so I think that the way the world's going is that there is a design, of course, to dumb down and pacify the human being, so they're much easier to cull. You can cull them in an instant. All you got to do is invent some sort of a so-called disease, and then tell everybody to go and get this, and then all of a sudden, you've culled a billion of them overnight or over a long period of time. And so, we look now that there's, I don't know, like 100 people that run the world. And you look at the power that they've got over everybody with Elon Musk and Zuckerberg and Gates and all that, and you're thinking, well, it's absolutely obscene. But there's going to come a time very, very soon when the vast majority of people are no longer a requirement. In actual fact, we're going to be considered vermin. By
In my
the
opinion,
system.
in my opinion, I think that this is a reflection of our ego in action. You get what I'm saying? Like, everything, as far as how the system is designed. Like, I think that the way the system is designed, it doesn't give people the time or opportunity to be able to be self-sustaining. You know what I'm saying? Because nobody's taking the time to do that. They're putting more of the time to sustain their egotistical realm, to cater to their egotistical life. You get what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
more or less, like when you observe everything, you say there's only 100 families, and that's true. The ego is a very small portion of what the actuality is. And in order for me, like, let's say for example, you're never going to abolish that. It's how much time and focus do I put into that is going to determine how much of that I get back. So the moment I stopped doing certain things, kind of like trimming the fat, I started to notice that things started to, again, like a lucid dream, it started to bend to my will, to my reality, the way I wanted to see things. The perception of life started to change for me. That's why I realized that I am, the world is for how I am, right? So let's say, I'll give you an example of conspiracy theorists. They immerse themselves into conspiracy so much that they go and embark and become doomsday preppers. You're telling me that person is not more than likely to experience a doomsday apocalypse than the person that's just not really
They
focusing on that?
created their own reality.
They created their own reality, but based on the fact that a reality, which is their ego in action. Because if you notice, whenever you try to numb your ego, it fights and it wants to fight. Even we see this in real life when, let's say, somebody does something to us. They might give us a bad comment or even cut us off on the road. Do you notice how you want to lash out and get them back? But it takes a lot more to just hold, and you become the bigger person, because the bigger person is the, you become the bigger person because the bigger person is really bigger than the ego. The
Yeah.
ego is really small and it wants to come out. It's got that Napoleon complex. So when I'm looking at reality, all this shit that's being proposed to me, like a proposal in a marriage, it's up to me to engage. And when I engage, is because I became, now we're engaged, like we're engaged, and now we're going to be married. That's where we got the whole maritime admiralty law thing coming in, because everything now is dealing with water. I became emotionally involved with it. It's like a chemistry. So everything that's happening outside of me, I'm aware that it's there, right? Like we can have catastrophes, wars. How much importance do I put into it is going to determine how much of it is going to be shown back to me. Even the internet works for me. Look, if I start to engage into, oh, what is actually happening in Palestine and Israel now, and then the more I do that, the more the algorithms cater to what I was looking at originally. Like everything is working for me, and I'm starting to
That's
realize
a
that
prime
I'm
example
the,
of how you're creating your reality. And that's
yes.
from an AI perspective.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing, though. The AI is the actual human body, the instrument of the mind that we created to animate our character here in different forms. And the thing is that this ego is not something that you get rid of. I use my ego to basically swim in these chaotic waters. I talk to you a certain way. I may talk to you a certain way differently than I would talk to my mom. I would go on a job interview differently than I would talk to my friends. You know what I'm saying? So we're always using different characters. And this is using this character or this ego to your advantage, but the moment it takes over is when you get too involved or too lost into it, where it starts to take over and control the reality or the mechanism or what you're trying to do. You know what I'm saying? That's why when I observe my life, everything happening, it's happening. I'm aware. If I get rid of it, let's say, I'm not having an experience. The reason it's there, I designed it and created it for me to have an experience. And it's also something I created in order for me to observe the corruption in me. And this is a form of shadow work. You're kind of reflecting now. You sit back and you start to see, well, now I'm observing this outside of me. You realize that that corruption is already within you. You're utilizing this life or this ego, and it's influenced by things outside of you. So if these things are managing and controlling me, it's a form of me selling my soul. You get what I'm saying? If I decide to partake in, like, let's say the doomsday apocalypse coming, and now I became a doomsday prepper, I sold my experience to that. I'm selling my soul, right? The reason I can say that selling your soul is your individual experience. The spiritual space that it's outside of you is you, and it's God consciousness. But it can be one or two ways. It can be favorable for you or not. You can look at it from your internal self, or you could externalize it and look at it from the outside in and just say, this is something outside of me. That's where you start to lose your power and sell your experience if you don't have a strong mind or discipline. You can never be in victim mode if you are in a space where you know that all these things are actually you. The thing is, how do you become responsible and take accountability for these things? A lot of people don't want to. You see what I'm saying? They'll depend on an accountant to take care of their finances. They'll depend on a counselor or a teacher or a YouTuber or the fucking government to tell them shit about their life. When it's an actual, or a doctor, you tell a doctor your symptoms, they don't know shit what's going on with you. You know more than they do. You're just giving them symptoms and they're guessing what's wrong with you. They'll give you something to suppress that symptom, and that's how reality is. The YouTubers, the teachers, main and foremost, a lot of YouTubers express the shadow aspects of themselves, and when somebody becomes relatable to them, it's because they're kind of their vibe attract your tribe, right? And sometimes that person's in a deeper hole than they are, and then all of a sudden, upon listening to that YouTuber, sometimes their life starts to look even worse than it originally was, and that's because you're living through them, their experience. You consume their info, and what you become, you eat what you become, and what you become becomes. I mean, you are what you eat, and what you eat becomes you in a sense, as far as information goes.
For
And when
instance,
somebody takes this information, forms a belief system, it's kind of like that's what they became now. It's an information, but only based on something outside of them and not something authentically from within that they hid themselves, and they only hid it because they deemed it unacceptable, but only because they said society deemed it unacceptable. The moment I accept it and integrate it, there's a lot of gifts and talents in there. And if I bring it out in the open in a healthy way because I've integrated it and became, and realize that it's a part of me. There's no separation between bad and good. Now all of a sudden everybody will start accepting it. Why? Because you accepted it first. It's kind of like the saying where you will see, others will see you how you see yourself. It's just a symbiotic thing happening, man. Dad, I'll let you go in.
so we've done 2 hours and 20 minutes now, and so
Yeah,
if we can wrap this up, say like in 15,
yeah,
because it's my shower time and meal time and all that. Um,
yeah, yeah.
but a couple of things that just want to try and bring it to a finale with is that if we just imagine like watching David Icke or Alex Jones. Now, Alex Jones, he's telling you about all the terrible things that are going to make you sick, and then he's selling the remedy. He's selling all the nutrients and all this top stuff to keep you vital. But then in the next breath, he's telling you which is going to destroy you and
Yeah,
all these terrible
yeah,
things that your mind is eating away your own immune system.
yeah.
It's such a paradox and it's such
The
hypocrisy.
nervous system. It's attacking the
Yeah.
nervous
So
system, which paralyzes you. That's
everything
fear.
Alex Jones and David Icke are doing, they are entirely designed to destroy your nervous system and make you a complete fucking nervous wreck and ruin your health. And
And
then
what is
Alex
the
Jones,
nervous system, Aaron?
sorry,
Aaron, the nervous system is the electrical system of the body, isn't it? We
yeah,
talked about lighting up the appliances, right? And
yeah,
everything getting turned on, like you get turned on, not sexually, but really turned on. You get what
yeah.
I'm saying?
And so to round this up and to leave people, because people can say, "Oh, you always talk about problems. Let's talk about solution." Well, I often try to, speak about solutions, and my solution is simply like this. Now, it gets back to people when they say, "Oh, you should debate this person. You should debate that," and I'm like, "Well, that's just going to be an argument, and it's going to be me just saying my truth and him saying what he thinks is truth, and never anything is going to be. Nothing an atheist is going to say to me is going to change my opinion, and nothing I say to an atheist is going to change theirs. So what's the point? Everybody just walks away from the audience deflated because nothing's been learned, nothing's been achieved.
Right.
It's
That's
just
right.
been a shocking display of ego. And so
Yep.
what I say is, look. The thing is, what I want, I don't want to talk to people like that because I'm long enough in the tooth to know that there's no future in that. And I know what I want. And so I said, well, after you've heard this conversation, you'll know what I want. And if you know anybody else that can speak like this guy does, then I'll be interested. Because what I want at my stage in life now, I know what I am. I know how I think. I know what makes me comfortable, and I've got an idea of the trajectory that I'm on. And so I want all things that comply with that. Anything that doesn't comply with that, I'm just parrying it. I'm blocking it. I'm stepping over it. And I'm speaking to my daughter, 33 years old, and about how to self-actualize and all these sort of things. And I say, well, look, in a nutshell, it's very, very simple. All you've got to do is write down all the things you like on one page, all the things you don't like. And then
Mhm.
you'll look at all the things you don't like and you'll see how you can stop doing them or avoid doing them. and
Uh,
how you can do all the things you do like.
uh,
Life's a juggle, and that's it. If you can eliminate the vast majority of things you don't like doing, if you don't like your job, fucking change it. If you don't like your partner, change it. If you don't like where you live,
yeah,
change it. All this sort
that's
of stuff.
right.
We've got the power. If we want to, dig deep, we can do this. So what I'm doing is, because I now know I'm God, I'm creating my reality. And I'm
Right.
perfectly happy with every single facet of my life, because after all
Hmm.
these years of traveling all around the world and everything, I have got myself into a very, very comfortable position where I can be exactly what I want to be. And so then, who am I inviting into my life? People that are going to be speaking to me about the things I would speak to somebody else, the things that I have an interest in, the things that make me feel passionate, the things that make me feel full of life. Not this shit that I'm going to be arguing and resenting and rejecting. Why would anybody want to do that? And so, what
Yeah.
I would advise people is to look at your life, and just a simple thing like what I've said: write down all the stuff that you like, write down all the stuff that you don't, and then just try to be an avoidance of the stuff that you don't, and head towards the
Hmm.
stuff that you do. And the more confident you get, the more wise you get, then the better you will get at doing that.
Yeah.
And if we look at the secret of life, I would say, look, and I've said this for years and years and years. My life is better than Brad Pitt, John Travolta, any pop star or film star you can ever imagine, because I've got every single second of every single day to myself to do
Hmm.
whatever I want. Now, I can't go to a $500 a meal restaurant, but I don't want to. I can have a beautiful $5 meal and it's going to taste absolutely fantastic, like that stew I made the other day. And I ate it for the next 4 days and I was ecstatic every single time. Well, I'm in heaven. I ain't got to sign no autographs. I haven't got to sneak in the back door. I haven't got to pay a vast amount over and above what the value of it is and all this sort of stuff. So why would I want to be one of those? What level of insecurity would I have if I wanted to live a life like that? It's absolutely shocking. And when you look at how these people live, you see that they're absolutely stricken. Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, marriage is devastated. He's an alcoholic and addicted to weed, and God knows what she's on, all the rest of it. It just hasn't worked, has it? And so, if anybody in their right mind would be envious of their positions, they're fools. If you look at a person who is absolutely content to walk in the woods or sit on a park bench all day reading a book or just meditating or sitting there with a bottle of beer or something, well, surely that makes much more sense that he's in the best position in the world because he hasn't been trapped. He hasn't sold his soul to Mephistopheles. He hasn't signed a contract that he's going to have to pay back. I don't I've not signed a contract with nobody. I've got to pay nobody nothing. And here I am, living out the latter years of my life in ecstasy. And so if people can head towards that, and what I always say, I did a video about it the other day, I said, the less you have, the less fear you've got. Because when you have
Hmm.
things, there's always a subliminal fear that you're going to lose them. By the time you don't have anything, you've nothing to lose, you've nothing to fear. And if you're content with your, certain situation, look around. I live in a beautiful apartment. Well, you can't see it. Oh, yeah, you can because I've not got a filter on. So, I've got a beautiful apartment going. I've got everything I need. And so I'm in my own self-created little world. I've traveled all around the world, doing all different sorts of stuff, earning lots of money. Now I've come back to just being a very simple person and
Hmm.
meditating and working towards being closer to God.
Hmm. Hey, Aaron, I got a quick question for you. Do you think humans are able to leave this planet
Leave the planet. How?
physically? Physically, like go outer space?
Well, according to scientists with Van Halen belt, no.
Mhm.
because
Yeah, because
it's so high radiation that it would penetrate 9 inches of lead, and so this counters any moon landing. And you know the thing about the moon landing, there was a series called The Crown, and it's a brilliant series, and apparently there's a new one out on Netflix now. But in the old series, the three astronauts went to Buckingham Palace and they met with Prince Philip, and Prince Philip sat before them and he said, "Wow, I mean, oh, I've been so excited to talk to you guys for a long time. Thank you for coming. And I've got so many questions. And so, first question is it must have been a massive spiritual experience for you, shakedown. I mean, it must have been terrifying and exciting at the same time." And they looked at each other like this. And in this series, Prince Philip is like, surely. And then they looked at each other and they went, well, I don't remember thinking anything like that. We were too busy, actually. Yeah, we had a few things to do. Oh, what? The stars must have been amazing. All the stars and the galaxy and everything. I don't remember seeing any stars. None of them remembered seeing any stars, Ziggy.
mm,
You know, when they was interviewed, with the first interview, the three of them, in front of all the media, they were asked about the stars. Not one of them remembered seeing the stars. They never went.
you know what's funny is I had an out of body experience, and I this is where I start to realize that what I'm experiencing outside of me is me. And you know how they make you, they put your mentality in a way. And when I say they, it's still you. It's your ego that's trying to like cloud who you really are. This whole mind chatter and shit, it's always trying to block you from like talking
Yeah,
to yourself. But it's all distorted frequencies outside of you, and you created them for a reason. And this is the thing, I realized that the only way you can leave Earth is the same way you leave your body. You can't physically get up out of your body. You have to change your brainwave stage. You see, in order for you to get to any type of experience that you're going to come out of body, or let's say hypnosis, you're changing brainwaves. You get what I'm saying? But a lot of the times, the things we're doing, we run on programs, and sometimes certain frequencies, or even just watching TV or certain YouTube videos, they kind of like put you in a certain state. But it also convinces you through repetition that, oh, we once went to space. Again, the whole idea that we must be evolving because we were able to go to space. The same way I just said we created phones, we created. No, you see, the same way I said that we created pyramids with our body, we get out of space and visit all these planets, all these stars. Is basically in. I can talk to you literally, technically. I realize by just tapping into a specific coordinate in my body, right? Tapping into a certain part of my nervous system, and I'm able to communicate with the idea I have of Aaron Berry. Everybody has a frequency, just like you have a phone number, but you have to have that frequency. What is the frequency of Christ? What is Christ's real name? Was it even really Jesus? They tell you it's Jesus. He lived 2,000 years ago, but the letter J never even existed. All these little questions, right? But I realize that I can't get out of this planet unless I change the vibration of what I am, but I cannot do it physically. My body will not be able to leave this planet. I have to leave this planet in a different form. You get what I'm saying? In a different vibratory state.
vibration.
Vibration. It's the only way out. You notice how you raise the body starts vibrating and you pop out. But I noticed there were certain limitations, man. I could not, if I thought of it in a human form, I was not able to get out. But the moment this is the whole thing about the mental realm and going deeper into forms that you're not really even familiar with because they're not part of your program, uh, you know, in the human realm. I feel like the only way you can visit other planets, the same way you have organs, they're co-governed by chakras. The chakras co-governed by planets. We have that's the thing. We have these brains. We can inhabit these brains instead of just living up here. Is have the coherence of all of them working together. You start to figure out the frequencies and coordinates, and you can travel the solar system in the comfort of your own sofa. You get what I'm saying? I'm realizing it's not getting in expensive rockets, using fuel, using all these resources, and then we have to go to war eventually because we don't have enough resources. We're in our animalistic nature, man, and we gotta overcome that. We gotta come out of this human way of thinking.
Yeah, this dull, heavy state of vibration. Have you read or heard anything about Robert Monroe's journeys out of the body?
No.
Robert Monroe was the first person to publicize out of body experiences in the
Mhm.
60s. And so he's visiting other planets and other beings and all those sort of things like that. And he writes extensively about it. And when I was learning how to, do OBEs, I would listen to hundreds and hundreds of experiences were similar. People flying and going to different constellations and flying through the galaxy and this, that, and the other. Yeah, I don't have an issue with restrictions for doing anything with consciousness because this whole thing is conscious, and it's just a case of tapping into the frequency and actually experiencing it in some shape or form. Now, when in the Bible it says that Jesus was walking on water, well, I don't discount that somebody considered that somebody was walking on water, because I know that from reading the biblical accounts, there's a very high probability that most of those supernatural accounts pertaining to psychedelics. And if you have an outer body experience, you can well walk on water. You can see someone walking on water. You can experience all different sorts of things. And I am absolutely convinced that in the tabernacles, when they were burning the frankincense and myrrh, they were also banging on a bit of DMT or a bit of like marijuana and this that, and the other on cannabis resin. I have visited primal times as clear as day, absolutely as I'm standing there before a man in the jungle and the pyramids. And then I decided, well, take me to the future. I want to go years and years into the future. Instantly, I was in outer space looking at a massive spaceship on a massive fabricated planet constructed out of a buffed stainless steel. And everything on the planet and on the spaceship was constructed in the same way with elongated oblong or square, all these sort of shapes made out of this buffed stainless steel to stop them from reflecting the light, and they're all beveled. And I saw this stuff absolutely as clear as day, and I could move to whatever time period I so desired as I lay there on the couch paralyzed. The only thing I could move in my body was my eyes like this. The whole body was paralyzed for 3 hours, and I only smoked half a spliff of this cannabis resin. Now, I don't know what the fuck happened there, and the mate who gave it to me has never had any experience on it like that, and he'd been smoking it for years. But because of the amount of DMT that had been taken, probably had opened something up, and instantly, boom, I was in another reality. And so,
Yeah.
I think that once we train ourselves into all these levels of consciousness, like Rudolf Steiner, Rudolf Steiner would say that all the different planets in the constellations have consciousness, and they have a frequency of their own. And there's lots that's been written about Saturn being the first sun and, being evil and this, that, and the other. All these planets, they've got a frequency, they've got a vibration, and I don't have any doubts about them being conscious. They're conscious realms. And Rudolf Steiner, who was very, very respected throughout, a lot of different arenas of philosophy, was speculating that souls are born within certain planets, and then they will manifest and they will grow and move to different planets depending on the frequency. And so that is very fascinating for anybody that wants to look into that. Rudolf Steiner. And he was also the one that was big into creating these farms which are working with the land and spirit. In that Tao Te Ching way, getting back to everything about Steiner was spirit and the connection to spirit. As soon as we get involved with spirit, I know when I wanted to get involved with my spirit and leave the body, I trained myself and I did it. I know that when I wanted to get into the nature and mindset of God, I trained myself and I did it. And so,
Mhm.
it's just a case of we are God. We create our own reality. What do you want? Just ask yourself, what do you want? And you got to work for it. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes you can just get the odd bit and bob when you just ask the universe, law of attraction. But If you want anything really, really substantial, then you've got to narrow down your state of consciousness and your energies, and you've got to filter it towards that. And then when you do that, you tap in to the raw materials of the cosmos,
Yeah.
which are potential and probability.
The way I'm looking at it, for example, like we have, let's say you're alive right now. You talked a lot about, like, let's say, uh, Vikings and whatnot. They're ideas, in my opinion, but I don't even think reality existed, before I was born, and I don't think this reality will exist. But this is from my perspective after I die. You get what I'm saying? So people say, what is the end of the world? The end of the world is literally when your heart stops and everything stops. So from my perspective, there is no more. You get what I'm saying? But from your perspective, life goes on. So then we would have, let's say, a misunderstanding where I would say, no, life stops existing here the moment that I die. No, I'm here still. And when you're dead, I know you're dead and I'm still experiencing reality. But you see what I'm saying? Like, life is that perspective just from the moment that of how you're looking at life. So that's where we got the whole quantum observer theory, where you're collapsing things into existence. So you even said that when you had this resin, you went into another reality. What does that mean? That what happened to this reality? That means this reality doesn't exist at the moment you tapped into that reality, right? So right now I'm living a reality, right? And you're living a reality. You may see the color red the way I see the color green. Who the fuck knows, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But the whole point is that my consciousness kicked in the moment that I opened my eyes, but I was not even fully online. Just my ego, my the machine was online. The instrument of the mind that created me, which was my parents, which basically are still me. You get what I'm saying? But the moment I kicked in consciousness at, say, the age of 7, I'm coming in here with programs. Let's say I had a memory of what happened before I was born. These people say they remember past lives and whatnot. They're tapping into a reality no different than a person tapping into a DMT trip in their adult life or whatnot. But it's just they're tapping into something, an idea. I don't believe anything happened before the exact date that I was born. Nothing happened. Everything that I've heard about, let's say, World War II, I wasn't alive at that time. I was given that idea and information about it. The world is constructed that way. I'm living a reality. And no different than when you're in a dream, the dream is already formed for you the moment you just came online. But when you become aware, you have the ability to mold things around. But this is why I said, like, cells in your body, the cells are sentient, but the cells aren't in charge of you. Like, the expression of these cells are going to be determined by the perception you have of life, which means you're the Godhead. These cells have functions the same way a human has functions. They have organs, they have an immune system, they have an excretory function, they eat, they poop, they breathe, everything just like, but they're just it's like one simple person in its most simplistic form. And there's trillions of them in the body, right?
And
But
each and every one of them have the complete configuration and intelligence to build the whole body.
that's right. That's right. But it has to happen in a community. It has to happen so for example, you're not gonna have the heart indoctrinating the liver on how to be a heart. You get what I'm saying? The liver has to be a liver, the heart has to be a heart. Everything here has to be the way it is for everything to be put together, but that's why the body technically is love, because the body's put together by love. When things fall apart is when you are not aware that you are the embodiment of love. You start to get further and further disconnected from love. You start to lose that trust in yourself. You look outside of yourself too much. You become a space cadet because you're not in your space. That's where people say, hey, man, that person is falling apart. They say, pick yourself back up, put yourself back together. That's how I look at yourself. When you're not complete, you'll even look for another partner. Oh, this person, like your wife or something. Oh, that's my other half. And that person should never be your other half, because if that person leaves you, you're going to fall apart then. You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying? When you're a complete person, you feel fulfilled with yourself to the point that you have even trust in that person. I don't even think that you can be in a relationship with your partner unless you truly trust them, because if you don't trust your partner, there's truly no love. It's not it's conditional. It's not unconditional. You may have them there only because they're fulfilling their duties as part of helping you in the household, taking care of the kids, or just making your ego feel better. In actuality, that should never even be a thought to discussion. It's just basically you feel complete, you'll attract a complete partner, and you're both now able to create even sex magic. It'll be now where you're making love rather than just having sex. And that's why I said even people who are broke, they're in a poverty consciousness. But even the word broke, when you look at it broke, they're just broke in this reality of how abundant you could be when you have your shit put together in this reality, right? But you notice how poor people have like 20 kids, and like a rich person may not even have kids or whatnot, but it's just a consciousness. And having kids is a beautiful thing, but don't forget they're also reflections of light of what you are. And if you're bringing them into an existence where you're not even fully doing good here in this reality, like a poor person is just going to keep replicating more, like more batteries for this matrix of just poverty. And it's just something that's going to basically now become more and more dependent on a system to create more of that duality, more dependent on government. Why are we not taught in school how to make money, right? Not just earn money. Let's say, like, just they don't teach you about how the system works. They teach you how to be a worker, a more of a slave, more of like how to entertain more of the system to become dependent on the government. You got to go to school, get into debt. But again, it's the egotistical part of yourself. Once you become aware, you change that within yourself. And the more, and it's like Jesus. You know how Jesus went into a room and healed a person? They said, well, how come Jesus didn't heal the whole room? Well, Jesus healing that one person technically healed the whole room. It's like when you have an infectious virus, that one virus can take over the whole room and just basically infect everybody and kill everybody. But it can also be in the good way. And in humanity functions on mind viruses. I can be implanting good mind virus into one person, right? Let's say I technically was in my heart space, because Christ points to the heart for that reason, because the heart is the projector of this reality. Green, money, everything neutral is green, right? It's the gateway. But it depends on how structured and stable your animalistic nature, or let's say Saturn, which is basically down in the lower realms. We said that was the original sun at one point, but we're here in the middle, and we're basically mirroring this reality. But what happens when you get into other realms of existence? You'll start to see that this reality collapses, and you'll start to form other realities. That's more or less like, are you creating your reality here, or was that why the Egyptians focused on death so much? Because they're creating a reality beyond this reality. You get what I'm saying? Like a metaphysical experience now. And that's what we normally originally had over animals, but now we're just no different than other animals, having all these babies, being animalistic, depending on something outside of us, no different than an animal depending on you to feed them. You get what I'm saying? So that's why I feel like the more separate we are from ourselves, the more we go further and further from source. Well, what is actually creating this reality? But how do we know that? In order for us to evolve from this state, it's the gateway into the upper realms. The only way to do that is creating your afterlife, creating the same way your body here is an instrument of your mind. How do you know you're not designed or meant to create something unfathomable, but you can't fathom it? But when you get into those spaces, the more experiences you have, the more it's easier for you to actually be able to grasp an idea of what that existence is. It's kind of like you're becoming the light rather than chasing the light. When you're in darkness, you notice how you're always looking for a sign of light to exit. When you die, yeah, you go into that void, but when you don't find that light within yourself, this is why I feel like you're still chasing all that light outside of you. Instead, you really activate that solar plexus, the black sun that nobody's aware of, or activating what we once considered suns or other planets outside of you that are considered different brains. And I know this is far out thinking sometimes, but man, when you're in those states, it really doesn't seem that far out. It only seems far out to a person listening to it from a human perspective. You get what I'm saying? It's kind of like me telling a poor person, hey, can you imagine driving a Bugatti? If they've never even seen a Bugatti in person, it would be hard for them. But a rich person, that's why they can lose all their money and acquire that position again, only because they've been there already. You get what I'm saying? But if you've never experienced it, or don't have that program in you, how do you become that? And more of that is just basically swimming in those waters. Like when I made the example of California, I've never driven a Lamborghini Aventador. I never drove a G63 Mercedes. I never drove a Rolls Royce Ghost. When I went over there, I have millionaire friends, and I got to do it. But I can come back here and say, shit, I know how it feels. I know what it smells like. I know what the leather feels like. I know what. Let's say if my focus is were to go directly on that. Yeah, I'm putting all my energy into a physical thing just to entertain more of humanity. It's kind of an example of like you're going beyond this metaphysical realm. How do you experience that? Like you and I have been talking about that Christ, that God, that spark within you. Once you experience it, you can have a grasp of what that actually is, and work. But then again, it's like if people now start chasing experiences, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I think the big flaw is it's not chasing experiences. Because I remember when I started to come into a spiritual awakening, right? I had the most profound experiences. And then when I started to become obviously more advanced, my ego started to kick in. I wanted more of that, but because now it wasn't where I was like a child, where I was open minded and I was kind of like exploring like a child. Now I'm like my ego wants to experience it again to know more, because now my ego is the one that wants to know more. You get what I'm saying? So it's like that little fine balance between knowing where you're entering the kingdom of heaven as a child, or like let's say as a child you're gullible, you'll fall for anything, but when you're childlike, you're open-minded like a child, but you can also still not fall for anything and have the maturity to still use the conscious mind and say no, I don't accept that, because a child is in this existence absorbing reality, right, taking it all in. They don't have the ability to reject. They're just getting programmed by their parents, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience. As adults, we're like that. If we could get to that state, but also still have the maturity to reject what doesn't serve us, or what we've noticed has kept us in the same loop, and we want to evolve and expand out of that. You know what I'm saying? Become one with the universe, because the only thing that's ever expanding is the universe, and that's what we want to do, expand the same way. Humans want to be closed-minded, hold on to their information. How could they even expand if they're not even opening their mind like a child? A child is open-minded. That's why they have the ability to learn. They're making up their mind, while adults literally have to change their mind. You get what I'm saying?
So when we look at all that and we
Mm-hmm.
can see that it's our thoughts that create our reality, well, the premise of Buddhism is that we peel off the layers of
Mm-hmm.
our ego, our uh, whatever we've gathered, the moss that we've gathered as we've rolled through this life. We peel it all off and we get back to the original essence of what we were. And this is why also then in the Bible, Jesus says we have to become like children. So when we look at those metaphors, we realize that, well, of course, the metaphors, and then how do we apply those metaphors? Well, when we go into meditation and when we reduce the problems and the issues that we've got as human beings, when we let go of the Lamborghinis, when we let go of the $1 million house and all the rest of it,
Right.
we come back. And this is why Jesus, sitting at the well with the Samaritan woman, the apostles were like, why are you talking to a Samaritan woman? And, the whole idea is that he's talking to her because she's humble and lowly. And, much better to impart the information to, and much better to be received because she wasn't all poisoned and she wasn't all haughty with what she thought she knew. She knew she knew
Yeah.
nothing. She knew she was a
Yeah.
humble, lowly person, despised by, lots of the Jews and all sorts of things. But if we get into the realm whereby we are confident that we create our own reality, then we ask ourselves, well, what do we want to do as gods? And lots of people, if they haven't had the riches and the relationships and the fame and all that, they might very easily, just like Mephistopheles in the story of Faust, they might very well choose the fame. And
Yeah.
when they choose the fame, they have to know that they're choosing the penalty also, because all that stuff at some stage is going to be lost. And if the
Mm-hmm.
goods themselves are not lost, like Warren Beatty or Gates or any of those, when they die, they've still got the wealth. Well, they've lost that child. They've lost that chance of being unified with God, because a rich man cannot get into the kingdom of God. Why? Because
Mm-hmm.
there's too much going on, too much constraints, too much fear of the loss, too much ego, and all this stuff. Good God, just come back to being a humble, lowly human being, and you can see all around the world. I've traveled all around the world, and I've seen it time and time again. The happiest people, like the story I imparted to you about a bunch of African kids got random sticks from a tree, and they were knocking a stone around on the floor, playing a game of hockey. They were the happiest I've ever seen people. They were laughing heartily. They were beaming with smiles. They were healthy and fit under the sun. They didn't want for anything. But then, like you say, well, if they went to America and then all of a sudden, a hockey stick is $250 and the shorts are this and that, all of a sudden, oh my God, they've gone into hell instantly. Look at all the
Mhm.
stress and that nasty shit that they've got to contend with. They'd be much better off just going back to the dirt and playing with a few fucking sticks and stones. So that's the whole thing. That's the moral of the story of life. Become like children. And when we become like children, we'll let it all go. Letting go, the greatest asset of Buddhism. When we let all this stuff go, we free ourselves. We become emancipated. And when we're emancipated from all this stuff, we come back to being the childlike consciousness. And then we start doing gardening. We do simple things, and we're the closest to God that we would ever have been. And that is it, the secret of life. And you'll enjoy my book more as you go through because it gets deeper and deeper, and I broach so many of all these problems, in quite a lot of detail. But by the time it's finished, I'm rewriting it effectively. I'm going through it all again because that was only the draft. But by the time it's finished, it's going to have so many facets of what it is to be human, what it is to be spirit, what it is to be conscious, what we're dealing with heaven and hell, and the polarity of life, and the paradox, and all this sort of stuff. And so later conversations, it would be really interesting to see what you made of that stuff, whether you've got
Yeah,
any affiliation with any of it, whether you've got any questions about it, and all the rest of the stuff.
yeah.
But now we're almost at 3 hours, so and that that's some
Hey, but
chat.
I just wanna cover this one last thing because I don't know if I agree with what you said about the like a wealthy man can never. You said a wealthy man can't enter the kingdom of heaven,
Yeah.
kingdom of God.
Well, you see,
But wealth.
they've got this
Can
verse,
you
and it
explain
says
why? Huh?
they said a camel can get. Uh, a rich man has more chance of getting into heaven than a camel does, going through the eye of a needle. Or a rich man has
Why?
less chance of getting into heaven than a camel through the eye of a needle. So it's impossible. It's completely
Yeah, but
impossible.
why? Why? Why?
Well, I mean, because of all the weight that the person carries for having the burden of that wealth and power.
Yeah. I don't think it's the wealth in general. I just think it's basically the information you're attached to here. Every day you're alive, you're gathering information, right? So the money is not really that. It depends on the individual if they think that the money has value. The money has no value. If you figure that it's a game, it's like if I play a video game and I collect a bunch of coins and I'm a millionaire in the game. I'm really not rich. It's just an idea. But if I go into the kingdom of heaven with that game thinking I'm a millionaire, then I just put value on something that really has no value. I don't think it's the money or the wealth.
Well, okay,
I think it's the information we carry as like human. Yeah.
well, the interjection here is heaven is a
Mhm.
still heart and an empty mind.
Yeah.
That's when
Yeah.
you're in absolute bliss. So if you're
Right.
wealthy, there's always going to be fear pertaining to that wealth. Unless you are so super wealthy that you don't want to, care about it anymore. But people like Warren Beatty, not Warren Beatty, Warren Buffett, and Gates, and all these other like George Soros, working. They're 90 fucking years old. What's wrong with them? They're addicted and they're terrified of
Well, let,
losing what they've got.
let, let me explain this part. So we know that the sun is not real. The sun is just a reflection of yourself, right? It's something that we've collapsed into existence. But we could look at that and say, wow, it's so powerful because it's the giver of life. We sit in the sunlight because we depend on it to give us vitamin D3, helps our hormones, helps our crops grow so that we can eat. But we know the sun is not real. You know what I'm saying? The same way our reality is not
Well,
real, but it's real as far. Let me finish. As far as experience, right? So we use the sun. I look at money and wealth as something that I can use here to enhance my reality because the whole fear behind thinking that you have to be, not wealthy because you can't enter the kingdom of heaven is exactly how religion teaches people that you can't be wealthy You know what I'm saying? That it's the money is the root of all evil. But how are the religious systems so rich, and then you got certain people that are not even, they can't even like make ends meet, and they're still giving money to the churches, which are extremely wealthy, and they don't even get taxed by the government. You get what I'm saying? It's not. I don't believe it's the wealth that the person has. It's what they believe about the wealth, and what they believe as far as their reality information. Why do you think people say, "Oh, that person is a wealth of information"? Because information can be very wealthy, or the health of the person depends on the information the body's been receiving, and how the person has been living their experience, which is all based on information. But if you're living healthy just to be a better human, you're very afraid to get sick or die, let's say, it's still rooted out of fear. Everything has to have love balanced into it. It doesn't matter if you're wealthy, poor, as long as there's love, you have trust in the fact that you are God, but you have to have that trust that you are creating your reality with your perception. I don't think that it's wealth in general. It's what you believe about the wealth, the same way what you believe about your reality, what you believe about the sun. Some people sun worship. Meanwhile, how could you sun worship? You know what I'm saying? And it's just an idea. The sun is even there because of you. You know,
Yeah, but I
that's how I
think
look at it.
yeah, I think that there's something being missed there because I mean, of course,
Hmm.
it's metaphor, and if we look at what it takes for somebody to be wealthy, they have to be exceedingly busy, exceedingly concentrated. They have to have a certain expression of power and dominance over other people and be assertive of what they want to get, and their head is filled with how they're going to do it. Now, this is the thing. It's not about how you think about the money and everything. It's about the clarity and the condition of your mind. If your mind is a farmer and he's tilling the fields every day and he's not going to get wealthy and all he's thinking about is doing his job because the crops are going to grow and he's going to be able to feed his family, then he can think about God all day long. A business person isn't going to be able to do that. And what it says in the Bible, it's absolutely emphatic that you have to concentrate on God or Jesus, and that's all you should do, really.
But
Uh,
why?
well,
How
because
would I think about God if I am God? I can just do things as God. And if I, so like, let's say, for example, I have a passion for cooking. I'll give you an example. And I go and I open up a restaurant, and I'm cooking with so much bliss and so much love that I become a millionaire off of doing that. And now I hire a beautiful staff. But I've also been a manager my entire life. Don't forget, it's not about having us, because everybody has a quality. I have strong leadership qualities. I've been the type that I talked about it earlier. I built my employees to work as if they were little mini me's. You get what I'm saying? And then when they're doing it, now somebody would say, "What is the culture and integrity around your business?" I would tell them, and I would basically hire people based on my intellect, and I have a feel for that person. You know how they go through an interview process, depending on what they say, their work history and whatnot, how credible they are to actually fill in that space. You could do this energetically as well. You get what I'm saying? There's a real deep way to do this. You can always read a person, but if a person has integrity, they have a passion for cooking as well. And it's not like you have to search for them. They'll just come. You're doing so much love for things appear. And it happened to me because I was running that supplement business with so much passion at one point, but when I lost the passion, I noticed how quickly it left as well. But it's more or less like if you're doing things as God, I don't have to think about God because I'm still putting it outside of myself. If I start to become and embody that energy, that I have that realization, the singularity, the embodiment of that I am God, and I'm doing things as God, God is an attractive energy. It's attractive only because it's androgynous. It's light, and like moths sometimes get attracted to light, but sometimes darkness is also attractive. That's why women are the negative side of energy, but that's darkness. The man is more the light of the household. That's a repelling, push out electrical energy. But that magnetic energy is also attractive. You get what I'm saying? So you can become electromagnetic in your way of being, and that's more like God. That's the completion. You know what I'm saying? You basically
if
squaring
everything
the
you
circle.
do, you're doing it with love and contentment and happiness and joy, and you become a millionaire, then no problem. Of course, there's exceptions to all the rules, but when we look at these parables,
Hmm.
then there is a general truth in there. And I would think that there has to come a time when people are burdensome with money and responsibility. And this person may love cooking, but he don't want to cook 7 days a week, and he doesn't want to cook on this particular day, but he's got to because he's got this empire in the business. All of a sudden, he's outside of the kingdom of God. That's all that I'm reading into it. If you can do all this work and you can empire build and you can still keep absolutely still of mind without a care and a fear in the world, fine, you'll do it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if
It's
not,
just like it's
then
like passing. Yeah. Get it. Yeah.
so three
It's like
hours, three
passing.
hours and 1 minute.
Yeah, I know. I
That's
know. We
looking
were.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like passing it down. Like remember we talked about like children and passing more poverty down to them. Let's say if you know yourself, but you know that you're making the money based on like a different space than what a typical millionaire would do it. That's just rooted in the physical. I feel like that's a beautiful thing to pass down generationally to your children that gets them out of the slavery of what we're used to seeing in reality as far as like working for somebody else 9 to 5s. You could actually afford to put them in homeschool and teach them what reality really is. When you go to school, you're in elementary school, you should learn about the elements. In universities, you should learn about the universe rather than learning some mundane shit that you don't even use in your reality. You get what I'm saying? You went to school, waste all that time in cubicles outside of nature to do what? You get what I'm saying? Like you're separating yourself. It's still that's why I look at everything inverted when it's not done out of love and out of consciousness of Christ and God. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't matter because I look, I've hung out with millionaires. I see how they are over there. But that's why I said I had the realization of, God expressing itself in the physical, but also humanity lost in the light, where in actuality they woke up from it. You know what I'm saying? Even if let's say I had too much that was burdensome, if it's burdensome, I can give it away. I have the freedom to give even money away. You know what I'm saying? Let me give it away because I
Yeah,
know it's gonna come back. Love, if you let it go, if it's meant to be, it comes back, right? The
yeah.
money is love. If it's love, I can give money away. Let me give it away. It's burdensome. Let me give it away. Let me put a business that I have that's now consuming too much of my time. Let me give that to one of my family members. Let me give it to a friend. Let them enjoy those riches. You get what I'm saying? But it doesn't mean anything. It's just a game. You're building
You're
empire.
still young enough to be drawn into that reality of being a human being, you know.
Mhm.
And for sure, I was when I was young, but now my whole philosophy has changed. And just talking about money is kind of, I don't want any money. I don't need any money. I've got all the money I need.
I don't, yeah, yeah.
And,
I don't hold money on a pedestal.
yeah,
Money is not, I don't have you see, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I don't have the same way I told you when I was in this experience and everything was just neutral. I had no emotion and it felt like bliss, but it only felt blissful because everything was just lighter. See, the whole thing is just not being attached to it, not having that attachment. But I'm not saying that that's what I strive for. The thing is, I have millionaire friends. If I wanted it, I have access to $1 million. I feel out without even saying I'm actually a millionaire. But the point is that it's the attachment part to it. Like if I'm attached to it, that's where you start to say, I have my heart is heavy. Like when you
yeah,
die, you don't take that with you. That's why they say you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. That's why the whole idea of the Egyptian, the scales of Mayat, where you weigh your heart next to a feather. If your heart is heavier than a feather, how can you get into the kingdom of heaven, right? And that's because you got all that attached to your heart. If I'm playing this game, but I'm living my experience expansively, right? Then, but it's not. I'm not holding it as an attachment. That's how you enter the kingdom of
that's
heaven.
it. Attachment to nothing. Let it all go,
Yes,
and then you're in the kingdom of God, and then you don't need to enter heaven because you already.
right.
On that
That's
note,
right.
then, Zig Zag Zilla. Awesome
Hey man,
conversation.
it's
Uh,
good talking to you, man. I hate to have grabbed you here. I just had to make that clear because when I don't agree with something, sometimes I got to make it clear. I can't just say, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." That's
yeah,
why when you brought that last point up, I had to talk about it, man.
yeah, yeah.
But it was again another great chat with you. I could say it's total of 6 hours talking to you. Didn't even feel like 6 hours talking to you.
Yeah,
I appreciate these kind of talks again.
me
There's so
too.
much more I could have like asked also. You know what I'm saying? Only
Well, I
because
mean,
it,
we'll do it
mhm.
another time, God
Yeah,
willing.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so, we'll leave it a couple of weeks or something, and
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
knock
yeah,
off a couple more chapters of the book, and then you'll
yeah, yeah,
see a little bit more where I am, and then we'll think of stuff because now we know that we can have these conversations, and it's kind of I want to ask Ziggy what he thinks about that, and maybe
yeah, 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 yeah,
someone because for me, I'm always saying in my videos, and getting a little bit irate about it. For fuck's sake, are you all dead? For God's sake, how's it possible? You're freaking dead, and you can't hold. We don't. It's a gift. It's a quality. It's a skill. What we've got going on here is something very, very rare indeed. To be
Yeah,
able to have
yeah.
these levels of conversation without getting irate, without being
That's
agitated,
the key.
um,
That's
and,
right.
and all the
That's
rest
right.
of it. We've just enjoyed the flow, and
That's
it's a beautiful
right.
thing. And so, kindred
That's
spirit.
another form of, like, you see how people, if they get attached to their information, that's why they would become irate and it becomes debateful. You're not supposed to have debates because you're not really meant to be attached to that. If anything, I want to be asked questions. I sometimes I want you to challenge me, but I like it. You know what I'm saying? Because it gets me to
Exactly.
think, like, why do I believe that? Why am I? And it's not to say that I have polarizations, because I don't have polarizations, but I have a stance, and I like to pivot from there. And that's the thing. I like the people with, like, that expansive mentality to throw at me and say, well, why do you think this? And it gets me to think, well, yeah, why do I think that? But I haven't had somebody other than you, obviously, with a couple of things you may that could have challenged me in any way to say, why would I think that? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
But I
that.
ask a lot of questions because, since I have a stance, it's kind of like me challenging also myself as to why I see it that way. And let me see if Aaron, who's a reflection of me to some extent, let me see what he says. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a child being curious. Why? Where? How? Why?
And so, next time we speak, if there's any areas where I've said what I think, and
Mm-hmm.
you haven't arrived there, you on a different trajectory or
Yeah,
something, then I want to hear your perspective, and also I want to
absolutely.
hear if you do have an allegiance, then I want to know how and why. Why did
Yeah,
you come to this? Because I tell you now in my book how I derived these things. Like
right.
I'm telling people in my videos, I'm not picking this shit out of my ass, people.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
lineage of experience that I'm putting together over all my life. And so anyway, before we go on anymore, gonna get something to eat. If you can
yeah,
chop this video in two,
yeah,
that would be awesome.
yeah, absolutely.
And then we can bang it up in part A and B.
Absolutely.
Oh,
And we can, yeah,
mind
like
you,
I said,
I'm assuming now that I haven't got it. No, I must have it.
yeah, I gotta have it too, man.
Yeah, yeah.
If not, that'll be catastrophic.
Okay, so don't you don't have to do anything unless there's been a disaster on my end. But I think I've got
Yeah,
it. All right, brilliant.
yeah, Aaron,
Yeah,
virtual hug, bro. Honestly, man, I really enjoy talking to you, bro. Like, I'm glad I caught up with you again. I didn't see you for quite some time. Like I said, you disappeared. You came back. I'm glad to have you back. I'm gonna post my video. I'm also gonna put a post on my channel to make sure everybody knows that you're on YouTube,
brilliant.
and they'll go check out your work, read your book. Actually, I suggest everybody. I'm like halfway through it. I didn't get a chance to read it since we last talked, but because I've been a little bit busy. But I'm gonna take some time and finish up the book. I suggest everybody read his book. It's got a lot of very, very good information that will get you to actually have questions of yourself that may even get you brave enough to come on camera and even have a conversation with potentially both of us.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, wouldn't that be a
yeah,
thing? And so
yeah,
the link, you could post that below your video. I'll post it below
yeah,
mine. I'll post a link to your
absolutely,
channel, and
yeah,
so then we've got this interchanging thing going on.
absolutely. Yep,
Nice one.
sounds
Nice
good,
one,
brother.
Ziggy. Talk soon, bro.
We'll talk soon, bro.
See you soon. Bye.